There we go. I muted myself. Hello.
Ahoy,
Hello. What?
Are you muted?
Muted. Am I muted? I am muted.
I'm never muted.
Let's test it.
I'm full strength Will Smith all the time.
Full strength Will Smith, muted Adam. We got Wendell. And not only because of the power of Wendell, his error correcting memory is working so good that we started 5 minutes early. Like actually, but usually we're at least 5 minutes late, so we're about 10 minutes before when we normally would. Thanks to Wendell. Wendell, thank you.
Hello and welcome, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, glad to have you here. Yeah, so I thought you had C64s in your background, but you don't.
They're beam spring keyboards.
Yeah.
What?
So do
you have beam springs? Nice.
He has 3 of them.
Wow.
But you don't use them actively? They're just set dressing?
Big.
They're kind of big, and you have to replace the electronics in them if you want to use them as a modern one. I do have one working one, and I have one of the Model F keyboards. The guy that makes Model F keyboards also makes beam spring, and I have one of those as well. And it's delightful. You can't type fast on beam spring.
Oh, well,
what?
But you look cool doing it, right?
Wait, why can't you type fast on beam spring? I've never actually used one.
The mechanism is too slow, so either the travel distance and the time that it takes for recovery and all that. It's very faithful IBM reproduction, but they top out at about 130 words a minute.
That's fine. I'd be able to manage that, I think.
Interesting. I got an email. I wanted to see
electronic mail?
Yeah, an electronic mail. It's the I was born in the 1900s, but I still get electronic mails.
Kids these days don't. My daughter has email and she doesn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
She's 12.
She's like, what?
I don't. Somebody sent me an email.
This is like a DM that just sits there.
She just assumes they're all scams. Actually,
that is the truth.
So email, not Telegram, and then
yeah, not a Telegram. So I was wondering if you got that same electronic mail. I got an email from Sonic.
The Hedgehog.
No, from Sonic, the amazing internet service provider.
Oh.
Wendell, do you know about Sonic? The glory of Sonic Internet?
Oh.
Here it is a drive-in restaurant.
Yeah.
Oh,
you can get a chili cheese dog and a cherry limeade and
no.
probably gastric distress.
So Sonic out here has fiber. Not only do they have fiber, it's 10 gig fiber. Not only that, it's like half the price of the comparable, Verizon, whatever stuff. And on top of that, the customer service is amazing. Like they're just it's so good. I swear by them. But I got an email saying, "Hey, we're gonna have to increase prices. We're so sorry. We're trying to do what we can." You didn't get that email?
I didn't get that email.
Okay, so I got an email saying it's jumping from $40 a month to $50 a month.
You pay $40 a month for 10 gig internet?
Asynchronous fiber, yes. But now I have to pay $50 a month.
Wait, it's because you have that deal, right? You say you have that 1 year.
Well, I had a deal, but no, this was a general email going out to all.
Do you have a famous person deal, Adam?
No.
Do you have like special internet?
I'm not famous. Look here, I've got it right here. I've got it right here. I'm sorry. It's from 50 to 60, so 49 to 59.
Wow.
So fiber are as the economy fluctuates, we have to take a hard look at operational costs.
Tariffs.
I need to contact Sonic then because that's not even the price I'm paying right now.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, but you're in Berkeley, so I got the new fresh Sonic drops. I saw them literally stringing up the fiber in front of my house, and I was just sitting there waiting, like, come on, bring it in.
Man, I pay $80 for AT&T 1 gigabit fiber.
Junk, and you have data caps, don't you?
No, I don't. No.
I have no data caps.
That thing's I like the thing on fire. Yeah. But they forced me to get HBO Max with it, which really that's like minus points in my book.
Is that a force? No?
Well, it comes with it.
Oh,
I can't take it off and get the $20 a month back.
Oh, that would be funny.
Yeah.
Wendell, who do you use for your internet? You probably have a direct line to the backbone, right?
It's at the office. I've got a commercial connection, so we have a local fiber company, and they're awesome though, and it is crazy like the profit margins on that stuff because they'll happily talk to you, and it's like, yeah, this is how much we pay for the backbone, and this is how much we do stuff. Kentucky has this like fiber optic ring that they just completed that is like 400 pair of 400 gigabit or something like that. And so it's a ring that goes all the way around the state. And so a bunch of ISPs are using that to get on the internet in like Cincinnati or Louisville or like the big cities.
That's cool.
And so it's kind of like they've done some stuff to make stuff kind of cheap, but the incumbent providers like Spectrum and AT&T, and they charge a lot. They charge a lot of money, and it's not
their customer
amazing.
service is horrible. Yeah,
So you want to hear something really funny?
Please.
Next week's Tech Pod we recorded yesterday.
Wow.
And Brad's traveling, so we had to do it early.
Wow.
You usually do it like 9 o'clock on Saturday.
You're revealing the sausage.
The sneak preview for full nerd listeners here.
Oh.
We talked about an issue of Wired magazine from 1996 where they sent Neil Stephenson around the world for the first around the world fiber run.
Wow.
Which was called the fiber optic around the globe. I don't know. I can't remember. Flag is what it's called. And it was a 28,000 kilometer loop that goes. They had all this infrastructure. They did a bunch of like runs. They had all this special infrastructure made because it was really early for that. It was before we ran a whole boatload of dark fiber. That thing was 10 gigabits. With error correction, it got to 8 gigabits. Which
and that was what
1996.
Wow.
So you can get that to your house.
Wait, back
now.
in the 1900s?
Back in the 1900s,
wow.
Yeah. Looping it back. Good callback there, Adam.
Dang.
You podcasted before.
That's crazy.
We're so old. We're from the 1900s.
Yeah. Wendell, you from the 1900s?
Yeah. I too.
You look so young though, you know.
Just the compute though, like the compute aspect of it is like it's like the internet speed is just one aspect of it. If you want to think it's like computing power doubles about every 18 months or computing power, but also the world economic output has not slowed down because of, war, catastrophe or anything like that. So if you want to think about it that way, it's like the amount of compute that exists now is more that has come out in the last 18 months was more than what existed in the previous, like if you go back like say 36 months or 48 months, than all of compute that existed before then. And so
wow, that's
exponential growth of something. It's
where's this all being
nuts.
stored? Is there just big server racks? Is that why you have big server racks? You're just storing random stuff from the internet?
I do tend to hoard things, yeah. And it's just like, do I really need 5 copies of Star Trek: The Next Generation? I think I do.
I think
you never
what
know.
if you lose 4 of them?
Yeah, you don't want to lose those. You don't want to lose
exactly.
those. Oh, that's funny. Well, Wendell, we're not just here to talk about internet. Though I am bummed I'm going to have to pay $10 more for this fantastic service.
I'm so sorry.
I know.
I'm so sorry.
I'm so
you should send
sorry.
Dane a note and tell him how disappointed you are.
Yeah.
And then he'll explain to you exactly why he has to do that.
I should.
He's on Twitter. He was really active on Twitter in the old days of Twitter.
I love Sonic.
Dane's good.
I like what Uncle Bob Martin says about the whole economic. He has a fun way of explaining it, which is in the number of transistors that is in an iPhone. If you took the world's entire GDP, their entire economic output from like 1959, the entire planet could make enough transistors to make one iPhone.
Oh yeah,
state of the art technology of
Well, so
that's how crazy things are.
So that curve, that 36-month curve, that seems like it's closer. Like if you look at the last year's output and it's more than existed, 36 months before. That seems like that gap is closing, right? Because in the old days, like in the early 2000s, you'd look at that and it was like everything from the 80, like a year's compute was equal to like everything that was generated in 1990 before 1995 or something like that. So it was like a 10-year gap. If it's down to 36 months, that's kind of nuts.
It's AI. Like the entire GDP of the planet has turned toward AI.
That's probably fine.
Oh, great. Yeah.
The thing that it's the thing that MIT says makes you stupid if you use it too much, right?
Yeah. Well, so we're not here to talk about AI.
No,
definitely.
please don't.
We are here. Yes.
Oh no, I was gonna say I forgot to bring oven mitts today, Adam. So it was specifically designed for you.
I saw the comment. Yes, Pogo or JoJo, I will stop pounding on the desk.
Yeah,
I have a tendency to pound on the desk.
He's just angry.
Now get mad at him.
Outrage all the time.
Air smacks. You got to air smack it.
Yeah.
Air smack it.
You have a fidget item on you?
Yeah, I look. I can just don't.
I was cleaning out my office over the weekend and I found I think this is E3 2017 metal razor fidget spinner, and this is like my favorite fidget spinner of all time.
It's
it'll make a loud noise if I drop it. It'll definitely dent this.
Just poke
Chromebook.
Will if you need to fidget anything.
I don't think it has enough outside weight because the logo it has a little bit of a centrifugal.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has a nice, satisfying.
It's good
whip. Though.
Yeah, I need a good fidget item. What do you fidget with, Wendell?
Computer stuff, just random crap laying on my
anything
desk.
you find. You don't have a go-to?
No, it's like I got a Got a mini PC motherboard.
tapping on the motherboard.
All right.
Clicking the BIOS reset button.
There you go.
Yeah. Challenge mode. Press BIOS reset right before a meeting.
Yeah, there you go.
Nice.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
I'm going to hit reset on this stream. Welcome, everybody. Glad you're here. A friend of the show, Robert, Vina, Lewis, Tanmay, Murray's Tech Time.
All the friends.
All the Liquid R, all the friends of the show are here. Thank you for joining us. I'm just glad to be here to listen to Wendell's beautiful voice. But before we get to that and talk about mini PCs and Linux, we have an ad read.
Oh, is this my time to shine?
This is your time to
Oh,
shine.
heck yeah.
Will. Yeah. I called up Will and I said, hey, listen, bring your A game because we have an ad read for these Fractal Scape headphones, which are right here on our table. So, Will, is he ready?
Yeah, let's do this.
All right, let's do
Will,
it.
you ready?
Yeah, I got this.
All right.
I was born for this.
Ooh.
This episode is sponsored by Fractal Design and the new Scape wireless gaming headphones. The Scape headphones feature Fractal's signature clean design, rich audio quality, and easy configuration through the browser. Head to Amazon using the link in the description and upgrade your gaming audio today.
In this episode of The Full Nerd, we talk to Wendell about mini PCs and Linux. Man, look at that. Look at that. We're professionals.
It's almost like we know what we're doing. We've done this
Yeah.
50 or 60 times.
And welcome everyone to episode 355 of The Full Nerd, your place to listen to us talk about PC news.
It's the number
PC
one place
building.
on the internet for PC hardware. is my
Definitely the
understanding.
number one. I mean, it might be the only. So we should probably stop saying number one. We might be one of the only people. But I am not alone. I am your fill-in host, Adam Patrick Murray, but I am not alone, and I'm messing up the intro after
Really
such a
nailed it.
clean intro before the music. Afterward, I'm just dropping the ball left and right. Luckily, I have some people here to pick the ball up. One, Will Smith, is next to me.
Hello,
Will.
welcome to Earth.
And you need a haircut.
I'm
Look, daily reminder.
My guy moved, okay, and I got to find a new guy, and I hate finding a new guy. I'm
Yeah.
really bad at finding a new guy.
All right, well,
I just don't know how to tell him how to cut it.
you just don't know how to tell him.
I should tell him make
Just
me look
break
like
it to him.
Wendell. He looks good.
Oh, Wendell. We got Wendell from Level1Techs here on the podcast. Thank you, Wendell, for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This is going to be amazing and exciting. Linux and mini PCs, not necessarily in that order, and not necessarily one to do with the other, but maybe.
Exactly. Well, before we get to that, I have a couple rapid fire questions real quick. Wendell, I was doing some cleaning around here. I have a couple things and I need your help figuring out what I need to do with them. So this right here, I have an Optane, the one that's 111 or 118 gigabyte.
It's a weird screwy
It's
size.
it's the Optane. What is this? I don't even know the name of it. It came in this packaging. Yeah. What should I do with
if
this?
If you got two of them,
I've got
you
two
should
of them.
You should use it as a ZFS metadata device on a NAS that is like 20 to 40 terabytes.
Okay. What if I don't have
It will
that?
if you're building a NAS for like home storage use or whatever, using that and another one in the mirror for a metadata device
Really?
will be fantastic because
Oh.
it'll make the directory lookups and like searching for stuff instantaneous.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe we might have to.
I
do you-
used
do
to
you
run
understand what I'm
ZFS
saying?
in the old days, but then I got tired of futzing around with TrueNAS, and I just switched to a Synology. Now I'm a ButterFS guy these days.
It's much less fiddly these days, and there's a couple flavors of Ubuntu that bake ZFS in. License be damned.
Yeah, I do like I do the rise of ZFS. So ZFS journaling file system. It does all this deduplication and stuff automatically on the drive. It's really nice. It's convenient. It's good. It typically had really high memory. It used to have really high memory requirements in the days when like 16 gigs was a reasonable amount of memory to put in your home server. And these days it's less of an issue. But the Optane, I hadn't thought about putting the metadata stuff on the Optane.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Okay. Well, here's my other thing. Another Optane.
Wow.
This one is the SSD 905p, the 960 gigabytes, the U.2. What should I do with this?
If that has the Saber Raven code in it for Star Citizen, it's worth about $2,000.
How would I know that?
Sweet mother.
Wait, like
Don't
it's
open
like a
it on the
code.
stream.
Oh no, I had already opened it, so I don't remember anything about a Star Citizen being in here.
There's
but,
no sticker on the outside that says Star Citizen.
Yeah, no.
It's just like a postcard size thing with a code.
Wow,
on
why is that so expensive?
Star Citizen people are crazy.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh. Maybe I threw it away. I'm just
Oh
kidding.
my god.
No, I wouldn't have done
bunch
that.
of people just got triggered.
It's okay. They're Star Citizen people. Sorry.
960 gigs is a little on the slow side. If you can use that, especially if you have two of them, as a metadata special device. Also, they're still not terrible. Even though that's PCIe Gen 3, it's not going to be amazing in terms of bandwidth, but it's still, the latency on that is like the QDepth1 performance is slightly better than the best PCIe Gen 5 NAND that you can get today.
Wow.
Dang.
When you say run two of these, are you running the mirrored, Wendell?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't think I have two of these. I know I have two of these. I don't think I have two of these.
In my home NAS, I'm actually running a striped mirror of 4 of the 118 gigs, and my total storage is on the order of like 100 terabytes in that volume.
Jeez.
Wow.
Yeah,
What do you do with
it
100
makes-
terabytes at home?
Don't ask.
You have like, Green Acres and Mr. Ed and Dragnet and
Oh, shows from the 1900s. I like it.
Knight Rider.
Oh man, Knight Rider.
Knight
Ooh,
Rider's
now that's
good.
a
Yeah. You got to upres it.
So this is one of the most fun. I know we're not supposed to talk about AI, but one of the most fun things in the world is AI upscaling those old shows from the 80s.
Yeah.
And I should send you this episode of Knight Rider that I have, because you can see the blasting caps on the hood. And so it takes the fun out of it a little bit, but it's like, oh, Kit's taking all kinds of bullet fire. And it's like, what are all those wires and blasting caps on the black hood? You can see it clear as day.
Oh, that's
Wow.
cool. That's cool.
I've been watching Transformers, the 1986,
The original Transformers cartoon.
G1 is what they call
Not
it
even
now.
the movie. The
Well, I'm
cartoon.
working up. I wanted to watch the movie,
Uh-huh.
but I wanted to watch the whole thing to get to the movie, to get the part of the movie where I wanted to develop that love of the characters again.
Did you
so when they
upscale it
wiped
with
them
AI?
out, I'm really sad. No, I just was watching it like a peasant at
like a
480p.
chud. Oh man,
And
that's horrible.
I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I don't think upscaling is going to help the original Transformers cartoon.
Because the clarity is not the problem.
It's largely incoherent. I understand why my parents were upset when I watched this as a child. They were like, "This is making you stupid."
All right. Well, hopefully Wendell's here to make us not feel stupid about mini PCs.
Yeah.
That I feel like. Correct me if I'm wrong, Wendell, but I feel like we are in a heyday of mini PC. Like there are a lot of mini PCs coming out. You're covering a lot of them over on Level1Techs, and yeah, I feel like companies are excited to ship them to people. I got one right here, the Geekom IT series. I don't even remember what this is. Ultra 9 285H. So no discrete graphics, just a lot of CPU cores and like I just feel like the configurations are crazy, right? You got low power ones for like you use for
so like I
your
use
home
an
streaming.
N100. I was actually looking at upgrades for that because that's one of the things that is actually on sales. There's like N150, which is I think 12th or 13th gen Intel cores that are just like low power quad core Celerons. That are great for like here in California, Wendell, you may not know this, but electricity is hella expensive. So like I like to keep my Plex and all that server under 4 or 5 watts, 5 or 10 watts idle, so that I'm not paying $40 a month to watch movies 2 days a month, which seems like a lot. And then the NAS runs like the lightweight stuff, more with the spinning drives and all that. But yeah, so like N150 mini, you can get everything from like $100, $125, really low power, 16 gig, kind of maybe even like a OpenSense router type situation machine, all the way up to like a Ryzen APU that kind of kicks ass.
I mean, you can get you can get
Ass is
Halo
okay, isn't it?
Strix Halo level devices for like over $2,000. You know, like so. Wendell, do you think we're in a heyday of mini PCs?
Yes, and actually, the heyday is so good, it's probably going to change desktop PCs at the low end.
Oh, you
please
think so?
Explain. Oh, he's got something he's showing off. Oh, yeah.
So minis for them, they make mini PCs, but now they also make motherboards. And so this is the BD795M. There was another one of these that I reviewed that it's a mini PC processor with the 3D V cache.
Yeah, I've got it's the one I have over here.
Oh.
Yeah.
And so like it's like I got this MSI B850i Edge, ITX board. This is a pretty good little ITX board for
brand new.
for AMD. Yeah, and it just came out. And so it's like, is it your choice here? It's sort of a false choice, but if you're going to get something less than a 9800X 3D or a 7800X 3D, then all of a sudden this starts to make more sense. There's compromises, like I/O is a big one.
Definitely compromise.
Support BIOS updates is a big one because MSI is going to do a better job with BIOS updates than Minis Forum. But this is hard to beat. That little 3D V-Cache mini PC CPU on a desktop motherboard that takes a discrete GPU, it will beat every configuration of this until you go more expensive processor, and then your system is vastly more expensive.
Well, okay, yeah, no, I mean, I didn't even think about that it's bleeding into DIY desktop stuff as well. Like how disruptive can it get? Do you think like we're not going to have 6-core 7600X or 9600Xs anymore? That AMD's just going to not do the bottom of the stack on?
It makes economic sense. Shareholders would be wise to sort of press for that. It hurts for an upgrade path. Like if you buy the 6-core and then you're going to buy a 16-core later, that kind of sucks.
It hurts the user for an upgrade path.
If you're talking business class PCs, you should just recycle the mobile parts into the SFF and like medium sized desktop PCs and do that. It makes sense economically, makes sense for shareholders, makes sense for businesses. It's easier to support. Yeah, it kind of sucks the CPU soldered on the motherboard, but it makes sense every which way you cut the cheese.
Yeah.
I like the thing. Okay, so there's two things I wonder. One is, are we going to see an explosion of DIY options in this space? Because there's no reason that there couldn't. I mean, okay, there's a lot of reasons there couldn't be a standard, but there's theoretically no reason there isn't a standard for smaller than ITX brick-sized PCs, right?
True.
And it would, but I don't know what benefit we get, right? I don't know. Like it would be, for example, there's like 3 or 4 places I would use it. I have the Plex server, which is one great use case for this. I'm kind of looking at my AT&T router, and there's ways that using OpenSense, I can, clone my MAC address and plug it in plug my router in downstream of my old router in down. For AT&T fiber people, this.
Nerd.
You have to keep your router plugged in and turned on, or else they cut you off eventually, even though you don't really need it for anything. So, I could build a router with OpenSense that then pipes that downstream and just passes through the auth signals through to the downstream router, and have a router that I actually own and configure, rather than having their kind of janky bad router.
But that would be another low power.
That's another low power, yeah. But that's like a dual Ethernet port one, right? I need 2 Ethernet ports on that.
Yeah,
or maybe ideally like 4 or 5. Yeah. And then maybe an SFP. Let's get crazy. Let's put a 10.
It sounds like you're getting crazy.
10 gig fiber out of that thing and run that straight to the PC in the other room. But yeah, so there's a ton of uses for these. The set-top box, we did a lot of these last year or earlier this year, where we did AMD,
MSI is sending
APU
new ones
based,
as well.
Yeah. Trying to come up with an inexpensive Steam OS or Steam desktop using Proton to play indie games and stream stuff to your living room, so you don't have to have a full PC in your living room if you want to play on the big TV, stuff like that.
And these things are tiny. They're great for computing. I mean, depending on what you're doing, right? But if you're somebody who's used to computing on a laptop, this is essentially that. But then you can put it on a big screen. I keep talking about this. Wendell hasn't heard it, but my grandma recently, she had a Windows 10 device that couldn't upgrade, and so she reached out and I was like, okay, well, what do you like? It was a laptop, and I was like, well, you want another laptop, I assume, because you moved around. She's like, no, I never move it around. It's always just plugged into my little my dock here. And I was just like, oh, well, then why don't you get a mini PC? If you really don't need a laptop, then why don't you go with this? And the options are just mind-boggling. The different configurations and stuff, and from major vendors to smaller players like Geekom. It's getting wild.
Yeah, I got a couple of Geekom devices, and they're also great. And these things have also held up really, really well, surprisingly well. Having been doing this for a few years, for elderly relatives, I did the same thing. Get a cheap 27 or 32-inch monitor, and then a lot of the time those mini PCs come with a bracket where you can actually just screw it to the back of the monitor, and it's got a little short HDMI cable, and it's like, here is your entire machine, and they're like, it's just the monitor, and I don't have to. There's all the cables are hidden out of the way, and the elderly relatives love that, and also the giant font size. They also love that.
Do you think we're going to see a resurgence in all-in-ones? Meaning the computer inside of a screen?
I think I like the option of screwing the mini PC to the back of the monitor better than an all-in-one, because that's a lot more upgradable. Like getting 2 or 3, 2-year, 3-year upgrade cycles of mini PC to one monitor is, I mean, I'm still using some Dell like 2405 decade old monitors with some, again, the elderly relative scenario. And it's just like, this is a 10-year-old monitor. It's like we've swapped the machine 2 or 3 times at this point. So that's way better than an all-in-one IMHO.
Wendell, a 2405 is a 20-year-old monitor, just for the record. And full disclosure, I just got rid of the last one. My daughter, when she wanted a PC, got the last 2405 in our house, and she got.
They don't make them like
Christmas.
that anymore.
I mean, look, that thing got warm. Those tubes were warm on that thing.
So Mint Arcade in the chat says, seems like Intel gave up on Nook too soon. Do you agree with that?
I think Asus got a good deal buying it from buying out all the stuff from Intel. Because Intel did some stuff that nobody else was doing, like HDMI CEC, and now HDMI CEC is kind of everybody's paying attention to that. It's like, oh, we should probably enable that. MSI and their new QB NUCs, that's like one of their big selling things is like, hey, our monitors plus our mini PCs, and you have a better all-in-one experience, but it's like it has to do with the quality of life of like they turn each other on. You turn the mini PC on, it turns the monitor on. You turn the monitor on, it turns the mini PC on, and the physical wiring aspects of it and that kind of thing. And so there's some cross-pollination there, yeah, sure, but it's really just because so many people are buying so many of these, and that's also going to depress the low end of the market for DIY, I think.
There's an interesting thing. Interesting thing that the MSI folks do that I really love for like home for server type stuff is they actually expose a power jumper on the outside and ship most of those with a big clicky power button. And like if you plug that into like a Pi KVM or something like that, you basically get a remote accessible PC that you can turn on remotely from just logging into the Pi KVM and seeing all your stuff. That is like, that's incredible. Like if you travel a lot and you want to have like a home streaming server and you worry about it conking out or turning off or rebooting or having power cycling issues or whatever, like it's a really easy solution to fix that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Do you right now? I feel like a lot of these mini PCs keep an upgradability in mind. Obviously, there's downsides and stuff, but a lot of the ones I've looked at, still have swappable memory. One, maybe two SSD slots, and they're usually of 2280 variant, so it's a standard size. But in the laptop space, it's gone hog wild. Like everything's now soldered to motherboards for real thin and light devices. Do you think we'll see mini PCs kind of going that way, or do you think they'll always kind of prioritize having swappable parts?
It seems like the mini PCs are heading in the less swappable parts direction, and some of that I think is from bleed over from laptops like Strix Halo. You really need the soldered memory in order to have the amazing. And the amazing thing about Strix Halo is it's got 200 gigabytes per second memory bandwidth. That's why it's so you could like the APU and everything. And so if you want all of those things, it probably makes more sense than the alternative, which is I'm going to have like 2 LP cam modules or like 4 SODIMMs in order to recreate the same kind of memory bandwidth experience on a mini PC. And you could do it on a mini PC, but there would have to be more organization between like AMD and Intel and maybe to an extent Qualcomm to get together and say, okay, we're going to give people a mini PC path here versus we're just going to copy pasta the layout from mobile into this tiny little thing.
I mean, have you? I don't think I've seen any mini PCs at least that have soldered on storage. Usually it's using some sort of M.2 NVMe SSD. Have you seen any?
No, actually. The B-Link has a soldered, but it's an eMMC. But it also has unused slots, so it's not. It's like a bonus.
It's just a cheap. It's like their cheapest options have eMMCs. So I was going to ask you about B-Link's a good thing to bring up. Like B-Link is where I go for deals. I feel like I don't have a good sense of the brand situation in this space, Wendell. I think you spend more time there than we do. I'm curious, like what your take on like reliability, like the B-Link that I have is a S12. I think it's been sitting in my garage, which is dusty. It's basically fanless. I think it might be completely fanless. It might be a little tiny fan in there. It's held up remarkably well for like 5 years at this point. I'm kind of curious what your, like, if you feel like there are some that are better, more reliable, better, worse. Like, what's your take on this space?
It's very dynamic and it's changed a lot too. Because I think some of the like when Minis Forum was first getting started, they were partnering with companies out of Shenzhen and some other Chinese manufacturers, and I think it took them a while to find like configurations that would be reliable in that kind of context. Because I think some of the first models were, let's push the mobile CPU to the limit, and then at like 18 months, it's like, well, that mobile CPU running at 105C all the time, even though it's like this is 105C is okay in a mobile, it was also not designed for 24/7, and so they've learned a lot of lessons there. And I think there are some mini PC manufacturers that are still sort of learning those lessons. B-Link has always had a top shelf cooling solution, like they're going to overbuild their cooling solution. Some of their mini PCs have like 100 millimeter fan in the top that is, overkill. But also, if you're thinking about this on like a 3 or 5 year time span, it's like, okay, well, I kind of get it. So it really just depends. Geekom, B-Link, Minis Forum are sort of emerging as the big names that I know off the top of my head. GMMK Tech, Strix Halo based devices are also like everybody's super excited to build something around Strix Halo because Strix Halo was accidentally on purpose an amazing piece of kit. And so I don't think that Strix Halo devices were, supposed to be hitting the market, at least desktop, at like $2,000, but it's so popular that people are like, oh yeah, I would actually pay $1,500 or $2,000 for a 128 gig mini PC. And at that point, it's like, well, you have a desktop PC with 128. Like, this is getting crazy.
I mean, yeah. What would you prefer? Would you rather have a Strix Halo, like a framework desktop kind of thing, or something that's DIY?
Yeah. So I've got the Flow. I've got the Flow Z13
I've got
here.
that one too. Yeah.
128 gigs Strix Halo. I'm blown away by Strix Halo. It is far beyond anything that I expected. And as a mini PC that can game, or a small desktop PC, it is shockingly good.
Well,
I played,
but it's
Player
expensive.
Obscure.
It's expensive.
It is expensive. Yeah,
but
that's true.
I mean, there's a lot of like, there's a way that people live now that didn't exist a few years ago. That is like, hey, I have a friend who's an artist who has a sprinter van that's like a camper sprinter van, and he drives that thing around the country and has a PC set up in the back so he can do his work. And then when he gets where he's going, he gets an Airbnb or something. He sets up and he just drags the PC in, and he has his like normal desktop PC. And like that kind of Strix Halo mini PC, if I told him about that, he would be bonkers for it, right?
Yeah.
He'd be really stoked about it.
You could run that off of solar. I mean, the most power it's going to be is 150 watts. You throw that in one of the high efficiency 27-inch IPS LCDs on there, you're under 200 watts and you're gaming at 60 FPS at 1440p.
And he can run Photoshop and do his Cintiq tablet and the whole deal. It's like for people who are traveling and like not road warriors exactly, but like digital nomads, I think is what they call them now.
Nerds.
People who work remotely. Like if you're a remote worker and you can be anywhere to do your job, you take that as your computer. You're mobile. You can go to Greece. You can go wherever you want. It's crazy.
I think the thing that people usually say is like, well, why don't you just get a laptop at that point? Like, why?
Because laptops come with a lot of baggage. Like I want my real keyboard, I want my real mouse, and I want a good monitor. And like a laptop is great for when I'm sitting here, when I'm sitting in the lab, when I'm traveling on the airplane. But if I'm going to go someplace for a month, I want real computer, right?
True. Yeah.
And Thunderbolt has been disappointing in that regard. That was the promise of turn your laptop into a real computer, and it's like it's never delivered on that promise.
Yeah.
Well, and like portable monitors are fine, but they're still it's like you have two laptop monitors, not like you have one real monitor and one laptop monitor.
True. How much do we have to thank Apple for this?
I don't know. What do you mean? Unpack that a little bit.
Well, because I feel like there was so much excitement around the Mac Mini, especially moving to the M1 or the M series of processors. I don't know. I know I've always known people who have like loved Mac Minis for one reason or another, but it feels like when they switched over to ARM that it was just like, oh, this is all you'll need. You don't need a tower at all, and so they're like, I know video editors who literally swear by them. Like, I mean, what's his name from over at Digital Foundry literally edits all of his videos on a Mac Mini. It's just like the work you can do with a Mac Mini is crazy, and I feel like the PC space is like, oh wait, we can do this too.
Yeah, there's a lot. There is a lot of lessons for non-Apple companies in the experience that Apple has been able to build, especially around video editing, and especially in any situation where there needs to be a tight coupling between hardware and software. And so, in a sense, you're right. I think that has influenced the mini PC market. But also, there's the x86 consortium now, like Intel and AMD getting together to try to, forge a path ahead for x86, because a lot of the basic suffering of Windows laptops still, like, you close your laptop and you put it in a bag. Everybody in the chat is like, there's probably a 50% chance that you're gonna get your laptop out
Still
later.
happens.
It's like,
Yep.
oh, it's 100 degrees. Why? And it's just like, how is Windows and or the x86 ecosystem so bad that is still not correct in 2025?
Yeah.
Whose head needs to roll?
Well, but I mean, part of it is, look, it's user choice. Some people like a bag warmer, right? Some people want to, like, sometimes you forget to close OBS on your laptop, and when you open up, you have 3% battery, and it's like burning your hands.
Yeah. It's a feature.
Yeah, that's
not a bug.
That is absolutely a feature. There's that little toggle in the power settings that says, hey, if I'm doing video streaming, don't put the computer to sleep. Clearly. It's like that kind of stuff is maddening. It's ridiculous. We've been talking about this for 20 years now. Like, we had this conversation when Vista was coming out with Microsoft, where they're like, look, guys, we finally cracked it. We got the window. We got boot up is really fast. That was a lie. And the computer's always going to sleep. No problem. 100% of the time, reliable sleep on laptops. Also a lie.
I heard that in Ron Howard's voice.
Yeah.
Well, luckily with mini PCs, you don't have to worry about that. Because, if it doesn't fall asleep properly, whatever, it's plugged in,
Yeah, it just costs you $30 because your electricity costs so much.
Depending where you're at, yeah.
You also don't have to worry about it with Linux.
I was
This is
gonna
running
say-
Arch.
Oh, we'll get there. We'll get there. Well, okay, so let's think about this. Let's bring this out to the future. Like, if we really think that this is a heyday and things are going to continue going this way,
Like, deep into the 21st century.
yeah. So, like, 10 years from now, what does desktop computing look like?
It really is not a lot different than now. It's just, this is kind of the growing pains of the core wars. It's like 16 cores is not a lot of cores now. 16 cores is the new low end. And instead of being sort of a gradual gradient that we're all able to perceive, instead it's going to be like high-end desktop and what is not high-end desktop right now, but like these 16-core AMD monsters and like the Core Ultra 9 285K with its 24 threads or whatever, and so those sort of merge together. So that becomes low end of whatever this is, and then you have the mini PC gradient that is like basically laptop class stuff, and you have like the Strix Halo that's kind of the bridge into, because Strix Halo is going to give a lot of people's current desktop a run for their money, especially in the 64 or 128 gig configurations with 12 or 16 cores, like, because there's a 12 core version. It's not Strix Halo, but it's like Strix whatever. And so, and then you have low end Threadripper, and like that's high memory bandwidth, but like the low end Threadripper is as much memory bandwidth as a high end Strix Halo. And so all of this gets blended together in the middle, and it's really just the march of technology. It's not really anything different. It's just that if you want to save costs and not have a wildly expensive system, it has to be a mini PC architecture. And then for people that are willing to spend money, then, spend more, get more, there's something there. And then you have something over here for like workstation and server.
I kind of want to see, like, this makes me think that maybe there is DIY legs here. Because, like, you think about this as a stack, and I look at, like, Raspberry Pi and Arduinos where they have the whole stacked hat ecosystem thing where there's a couple, I mean, there are obviously slow interfaces on those things, but there's no reason we couldn't have a high-speed PCI Express or Thunderbolt or whatever interface that you stack on. And there's no reason you could put a 9060 or a 9070 in some of these small machines if that configuration and form factor exists, because it's not like those cards generate that much heat, and like there's a world where this becomes a category where we can build our own stacks, where you can get an AMD a CPU with an NVIDIA graphics card and whatever other business you want in there, a capture card or something.
Yeah, well, and depending on size too, right? I mean, we're talking about the mini PC space, but also this applies to small form factor. I mean, which is just DIY mini PC.
It's got a full-size X16 slot. I mean, you can go nuts. And you can bifurcate this, so you can configure it in BIOS if you want 2 X8 slots or 4 X4. It can do it.
Wow.
Who do you think, which company do you think is the best primed to take advantage of this in terms of processing, AMD or Intel?
Oh, AMD has definitely realized what's going on with the whole mini PC thing and the whole like Zen 5 compact cores and being able to slice and dice it. I think Intel is starting to realize a little bit more because they're doing some more interesting things with the Core Ultra 2. But, to an extent, Intel, like, it was kind of starting to take off with the 12th gen. And, like they did the N100 and the N305. I think the N305 is really, really interesting and innovative, but then they didn't really continue the trajectory. They've got kind of a gap now. When the N305 came out, it's like, this is amazing. And so, like, if you're looking at stuff now, it's like, I wouldn't look at N100 or N105. I would sort of start at N305 because it's the same wattage, but it's twice as many E-cores. And that makes a lot more sense for, some of these mixed workload things. But in terms of like, where's the Core Ultra version of that? And it's like, well, those parts of the silicon were made by TSMC, and it's like, there's a little bit of a gap here now. Actually,
where's Qualcomm in all this?
Qualcomm might have an in here, but it doesn't seem like Qualcomm has enough developer bandwidth to satisfy the stuff that they're working on now. Like there are game devs that are suffering on trying to get their stuff running on Qualcomm laptops, and so like if you can't get it right on the laptop, like what are you going to do with the mini PC?
Well, and what about the hottest mini PC that we've been seeing lately, the NVIDIA Sparks?
Oh yeah,
because that is a small little mini PC, but it's very single use case right now.
I'm really excited for this because here's the coming thing that it could be amazing or could be not. So we got Strix Halo with ROCm, which is accidentally amazing, and so like. AMD, I think, IMHO again here, hasn't been putting enough points into like their ROCm and their AI stack on Strix Halo. I wrote a guide, by the way. There's a guide in the Level 1 forum for getting it working, and it's a little sketch, it's a little sus, but you can get like 5 tokens per second on a Q4 model on this CPU, which is insane. On a model that's 120 that fits in 128 gigs of memory, just barely 120 billion parameters, or 120. Well. It's 340 billion parameters, but they're Q4, so it's 120 gigabytes. And so you've got this whole potpourri of things happening outside NVIDIA, and then NVIDIA has this little box that's going to be amazing and has how much memory bandwidth does it have? Is it more than 200 gigabytes per second? How much GPU horsepower does it have? Is it going to be on the order of like a 5060? Is it going to be like an underclocked 5060? If that thing lands and has an amazing software stack, then all the stuff that people are excited about for Strix Halo, NVIDIA is going to steal the thunder. And that could be, the year of the Linux desktop because it's ARM and NVIDIA is doing their own version of, Ubuntu and that kind of stuff. It could be incredible. It could be an incredible platform. It could be an incredible catapult. It could be an incredible, relatively low cost, $2,000 to $3,000, depending on if you get NVIDIA's version or one of the partner versions. 128 gigs of memory again, blah, blah, blah. But right now, Strix Halo is kind of stealing the thunder, but the only reason that Strix Halo is not completely stealing the thunder is because the software experience from AMD on the RDNA side of things is not as coherent, and like people don't have the confidence in it they should, regardless of reality. And the reality is that IMHO, it is a little sus, and they really should put more points in that. But yeah. Well,
we have a question right now on piggybacking off that. Steven Anderson asks, how does ROCm compare to CUDA right now?
Well, so in that context, CUDA is a lot easier. But with the launch of Blackwell, there are cracks showing in NVIDIA's CUDA infrastructure. There are people that are having trouble, like commercial customers that are having some trouble porting things. Like they're finding some rough edges around like FP8 implementations in some of the kernels for Blackwell, and it's like, oh, we need to implement this correctly, and it's like, well, that was one of the things you advertised that was on launch, and it's not actually ready on launch. So there's some teeth gnashing and grinding of teeth for that, and some other features that are maybe a little not ready yet on the Blackwell side of things. And so again, AMD could come out here and be like, look, our software experience is ready to go. Yeah, I know historically we've but blah, blah, blah. And that's a different experience on CDNA. So like compute DNA for like the commercial stuff, AMD's, fine, you can do crazy stuff, but people trying to run AMD's AI stuff on the RDNA cards, that's where their reputation is coming from for things not being And so it's different and weird when we're talking about it in this kind of a context.
I mean, yeah, either way, I didn't. I mean, I obviously didn't see Strix Halo coming either, but the NVIDIA coming out with their own mini PC was definitely not on my bingo card for this year.
The mini PC is actually based on what NVIDIA's been doing for laptops. I think we would have already seen an NVIDIA laptop that puts Qualcomm laptops to shame if Microsoft had the bandwidth to actually make Windows not suck.
Oh, interesting. So you think somewhere...
I don't know that that's true. I'm just
okay.
making up rumors.
So you think, but there's somewhere out there with an NVIDIA laptop that they're doing testing on.
If this were a coloring exercise, there would be some dots I'm connecting here, and I may have accidentally invented something not in the picture, but it sure looks like
interesting.
It sure looks like that's where that CPU came from. So,
hey Wendell, while we're talking about NVIDIA and AI stuff, I often wonder what's going on with like the open implementations of CUDA that AMD kind of quietly hired one of the people who was responsible for one of those earlier. I saw some movement earlier this week on one of those. I can't find the story right now, but I'm curious, like, do you think that's a real thing that people are going to use in production environments, or do you think that's a novelty right now?
I hope that something comes of that. I hope that there is enough legal framework and maneuvering to say that like what exists with CUDA, we can we can do a more high fidelity clone of what exists in CUDA for other platforms, AMD included. Like I hope that is okay legally. I think it's enough of a gray area that AMD doesn't really want to touch that directly with a 10-foot pole. Yeah. But there do exist some tools, which are also some tools that are AI powered. That's like, hey, take my CUDA code base and port it over here to ROCm, and that works surprisingly well in 2025 for like large commercial customers. For hobbyists and people doing kind of some stuff, it's a little suspect.
Requires a little bit of work on the developer part. Yeah. Okay.
Here's the mind-blowing thing. The other thing is actually more transparently true. NVIDIA has a developer that is working, at least one that I can see from the internet, that is very good. And he is working on Vulkan, a Vulkan backend for llama.cpp. And right now, for larger context windows, NVIDIA's Vulkan backend is better than CUDA.
Vulkan's always better than the other alternatives. That's the thing we've learned over the last 5 years, right? Just if the game says, hey, do you want to use this thing or Vulkan, use Vulkan.
Even on NVIDIA's own hardware, Vulkan is better. Now, that's not true for very small context windows, but for long context windows, Vulkan wins.
Well, it's an interesting position because like in a lot of ways, the entire PC industry is based on blind reverse engineering of the BIOS, right? The IBM PC BIOS. That's where it all started. And we had OpenGL to DirectX wrappers and DirectX to OpenGL wrappers and all sorts of like wrappering there's a long history of this.
Oracle and Java.
Yeah. Whether it's performant or not is a whole different thing, right? So yeah, I was curious how that, like, if you feel like there's AI possibility for AI stuff to grow using those kind of like low level interpretation libraries or whatever, and it seems like there's some reason for optimism there.
Yeah, there's optimism. There's optimism for two big reasons. One is like the tools are getting better and the software matters less, and the second one is that there are so many places with Blackwell that have not been optimized yet. It's sort of exposing how much of that has to be like hand-done assembler. And so like the FP8 problem I was describing, there's a GitHub issue where the people from NVIDIA are talking about, hey, yeah, we haven't done the hand-optimized assembler for FP8. Like there's this one thing that you can use where FP8 will run correctly, but we're still working on FP8 and it's just because it's not, like it works fine on Ada and it works fine on a 4090 and it works fine on all these other scenarios, but on Blackwell, it doesn't work.
Can't you just run that through Claude and get Claude to do it? You know, just... Like I thought that's the whole point. You sack the engineers and you replace them with AI. Done.
Easy.
That's coming.
Oh, God. All right, let's get away from AI talk here.
Sorry.
Finish up mini PC stuff. One of my final questions is, how much do we have to thank handhelds for this mini PC craze? Because really, if you think about it, a lot of these is just a handheld with no screen, no controller attached to it.
Steam Deck was far more successful than anybody realized.
Or expected,
that anybody
right?
could have predicted. Yeah. and that has driven a lot of. And look, they're still selling Steam Decks. They did the Steam Deck OLED, and it's Zen 2 with RDNA. Zen 2 in 2025 is a reasonable 720p gaming experience.
And it's still the one people point to as, you know what, if best bang for your buck, get it.
I think the thing that nobody expected, and this is something I hear from game developers all the time, is that their support calls for Steam Deck people, like they're seeing people who weren't PC, like they're bringing new people into PC gaming. The Steam Deck has brought new people into PC gaming, which I don't think anybody expected out of this. I think people expected it to be a second device for people who were really, really into PC gaming, which it definitely is. Mm-hmm. But also people are like, oh, I can buy a thing that let me play Steam games for $400. Done. Easy.
Done. Yeah.
I also like Microsoft. Did you see Microsoft's announcement around? It's like, okay, we're gonna get our head out of our butt with Xbox gaming, and we're gonna embrace Steam. And they had like the Steam game preview and Windows game mode. It's like, okay, we're gonna try to cooperate with Steam. Like that's kind of mind blowing.
Yeah.
I think that felt like a little bit of a one-way relationship, but I don't know for sure. I didn't see Gabe standing on the stage saying how excited he was to be part of the Xbox app on the Windows handheld.
True. Yeah. All right. Any more mini PC questions before we move on? Because I could talk about this all day, but we have other important topics.
I think that's the high point. Is there anything really that you're really excited about? Strix Halo obviously is exciting on the high end. You touched on this a little bit earlier, but I mean, do you really think that people are going to that this is going to eat the low end DIY space? Like for real?
I don't see how it couldn't. Like, I mean, because it makes economic sense for businesses and company, like for AMD specifically, to focus more on this. And if you have the deal hounds and the people that are looking at this versus that, like what's the hesitation now? It's like, oh, it's because there's not a big name doing it. If Asus or MSI or ASRock or Gigabyte came out with an ATX board that, you know, has more bells and whistles and was dramatically less expensive, they're going to have more margin and people are probably going to buy that. And yeah, it's not upgradable, but if it's a $300 board and you swap that $300 board for another one and then you can sell it for $100, it's still kind of a no-brainer.
Well, and I guess your upgrades, like most people's upgrades on gaming PCs, especially at the low end, are probably video cards, right? So like you still have that slot. You can still put a new card in when the time comes.
It's funny to think though, I mean, AMD is, you know, heralded as a savior on the CPU side because their sockets are lasting so long and you got such upgradability. But then you're saying they could also get into a space where, you can't swap out the CPU.
Yeah, well, it's not an all or nothing. I think the people that are buying like a 9800X 3D, it's like I'll say I buy a 7800X 3D today. Am I the kind of person that'll buy a 9800X 3D tomorrow or a 80, like skip a generation? Yeah, maybe, probably. I mean, that's viable. That's totally fine.
Or, you know, people who are like, oh, I'll get a 5600X, you know, and then when it goes on a real deep discount, I'll get a 5950X, you know.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't know how many people are out there doing that, but, you know.
I was going to say, the other thing I'm kind of surprised at is that we haven't seen more Lunar Lake mini PCs. I expected by Computex we'd have seen a whole raft of announcements, and I think MSI and Asus announced some stuff. But that's pretty much all I saw, because like I want that good video engine, man.
Yeah, they're nice.
Yeah. There are the QB-NUC from MSI is probably the most featured and coherent, you know, Intel platform quick sync ARC video mini PC that exists, but it's only just now coming out. So it's just like Intel kind of like they didn't realize the business class mini PC big thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll keep on the space. Keep your eyes peeled for Level1Techs doing a lot of good coverage over there. Before we get to our next topic, though, I have a question. Oh, what? Yeah.
One little thing, and that is the other mini PC thing that a lot of these companies didn't expect is exactly your home server use case. Like you were talking about, using a mini PC and an N100. Oh yeah. And now they're starting to like, oh, we should color outside the lines a little bit. And so like B-Link did their little mini PC that holds a bunch of M.2, and it's got problems. It's got its warts. It's a first generation product through and through, but it's still innovative because they're trying to think outside the box. And so we see that with mini PC vendors. Like, why are people buying these to not use, like they're using them as a home server? How can we make a better home server product?
So, okay, Do the people? I don't talk to the people who make these computers. Like, is Home Lab a thing that people care about? The companies care about at this point, or is it still just a bunch of weirdos on Reddit?
They're getting to because
both.
Yeah, like some of the numbers from our channel, they're like, why are people buying this in this volume? And it's like Home Lab.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't understand your video. You didn't talk about how you can like do your email on the mini PC. And I was like, it's fine. And they looked at the numbers and they're like, yeah, you're right, it's fine.
Yeah.
Well, because like I talked to like the TechPod Discord, we have a lot of people who are like network engineers and stuff like that, and people who want to get into that line of work. And the way they learn this stuff is they set up these open source stacks on a series of machines that are like $100, $200, $300 machines, and they just stack them all up in their garage, plug them into a network switch, and it gives them an environment to play with and learn and explore and just kind of noodle with in a lot of cases. And it's really fascinating. So yeah,
there's a thread somewhere on the forum that more than one person bought. It was not this motherboard, but they bought 3 of these 16 core motherboards. And they built a Proxmox cluster, and it's like, here's my home lab. And they were running like Kali Linux and all that AI, and it's like, there's like 7 VLANs here, and it's like, this is my home lab where I can practice. And I've created a model of my corporate environment, which has like 7 different locations, and I can push the configuration to the virtual router, and it's just, that's what people are using it for.
Yeah, it's I mean, look, it's having done that work in a university environment in the 90s where we didn't understand what staging servers were for. The idea of having an environment that you can test stuff on before you deploy it broad is really exciting and nice. It seems important for corporate and home users.
Always be testing.
Yeah,
that's what we say around here.
At PCWorld.
And you know what I'm always saying?
What are you saying, Adam?
Is that you need to think about your audio.
Yeah,
good audio makes for a happy heart. Wendell, listen. Do you like listening to things?
Sure.
Do you like listening
to things? Is awesome.
Would you prefer if it sounded better or worse?
Oh yeah, definitely. I would like it if it sounded better.
Okay. What about if it looked better too? You know, you get some.
Oh,
nice
look and sound better. That sounds amazing.
Man,
that sounds like a lead into our sponsor.
That sounds like a sponsor for today. We got a Fractal's Scape headphones. So they did send us a couple. Actually, they sent us 4 of them. Where we've been trying them out. These released or they announced them at Computex last year, and they ended up holding off. They and I can talk about this publicly because they were like, hey, listen, there were a couple quality of life things that we wanted to make sure that we got right. So it's just now barely coming out, a little over a year from when they announced it, because they really wanted things to be, solid. These are a $200 wireless headphones. Mm-hmm. It's got a base that the headphones magnetically attached to for charging, which is nice.
There's a little cutout for the microphone in the front, so you know which way to put them in, which is nice.
Detachable microphone. Yeah. It's just a standard 1/8" with TRRS,
and I think it's inductive charging, right? So there's no contact or anything you have to hit.
Yep.
You just rest it on there and it charges.
Yep. And then in the base, you can either slot the included dongle, so 2.4 gigahertz wireless dongle you can put in the base and then plug that into your system, or you can just forgo the base and plug this into your system too. It's nice having that versatility.
Yeah, I have my charger off to the side, just plugged into a USB power brick, and then the dongle is plugged into my PC right on my desk. So I have close access for the dongle, and I don't have to have the charger where it's in my in my workspace. I want it off to the side a little bit.
Yeah. And it continues this trend. I don't know if you've noticed this, Wendell, but this uses a web-based interface to control everything.
Oh yeah,
this was my favorite part of this.
Yeah, it's actually genius. I really love the way somebody at Fractal is paying attention. And listen up, you open source nerds. This is for you too. This will work fine on pretty much any operating system. All you need is the web browser, a web browser that supports the serial gadget. Mm-hmm. So your web browser can talk to a serial port, and the headphones and all of Fractal's accessories show up as a serial device. And so you go to a web page, the web page connects to the serial device, and boom, there you go. It's easy to reverse engineer if you don't want to, there could be an open source application that does the serial protocol thing because it's just serial. It's open. You can just sniff it, but all of that works through the browser, so it'll work on any platform.
I mean, I'll tell you the truth, as somebody who likes having dedicated applications, especially for audio, video stuff, it definitely felt a little weird just to pop open a web browser to configure it. But man, was that nice, because it's just, yeah, and then it saves to the device. You can use it anywhere.
I was going to say, I was able to make my settings changes on Cache just by opening Chrome. Right, I didn't have to do anything weird.
Yeah.
I like not having a bunch of applications running in the tray. I think that's fabulous.
True.
You can change your lighting. You can set the noise canceling on the microphone on or off. You can adjust your EQ, all that stuff in the web app. It also has one of the
mining data.
Yeah, exactly. It also has one of the best knobs on the back I've ever felt.
Yeah.
It's like right up there with the Apple Watch. And
I don't know if you felt this, Wendell, but like, yeah, it's like it makes me think of the Apple Watch for sure. It has just the right resistance. It's not clicky, but it
is clicky technically, I think. But
no.
The turning isn't clicky, but you can push in on it. Yeah.
No, I don't think you can.
Yeah, no, it clicks.
Okay. Well, like I said, but yeah, I mean, it just has the right amount of resistance. That I don't know. It's a good fidget item. Yeah, probably not good to fidget with your volume as a fidget item.
Just
but
up and down, up and down.
Yeah, you're just sitting there just twirling it.
And they do the thing. So their pads are replaceable. You can replace the pads on the cups, and they're thick enough that I don't ever have my ears stick out a little bit. I don't ever. I don't want the inside of my ears to touch the flat part of the cup, and I don't get any of that.
I hate that. Yeah. So these are the Fractal Scape headphones. Thank you, Fractal, for sponsoring the episode. Falcon Northwest asks if we can hold them up to see how Wendell looks with them on. There you go.
It's a little higher up. Hey, yeah.
Pretty good. Yeah,
good.
Wendell. Yeah.
Times.
Maybe you could see yourself in a pair of Fractal Scape. That we do have links in the description for both Amazon and Newegg, and the two color variants to, because hey, guess what? Aesthetics are important.
Yeah.
Like in Fractal, listen, I am a Fractal fanboy. I have no problem saying that, especially for their cases, because like I use a lot of Fractal cases, and I love the aesthetics along with the performance.
You love that aesthetic.
And so, now they have the chair and the headphones. Who knows what they'll come up with next? But
the machine that I'm on right now is in a Fractal North. I just like that case.
Yeah, it's a good looking case.
It's good.
You know what's crazy though?
What?
Is when the Define 7 came out, I was like, no. This case needs wood grain and gold accents. And so I literally modded the case and put a wood veneer on the front of the Define 7. And so I feel like I was the inspiration for the North.
There
Probably
you go.
not, but
there you go. Everyone thank Wendell. Then so and thank you, Fractal. Go pick up some Scapes today if you're in the market. And you should be in the market for better headphones. So,
audience question from Mark Sparks: how do they smell, Adam?
How do they smell? That's a great question. I have yet to smell these, so I'm gonna smell the plastic first. Ooh, it smells like blueberries, more like
volatile
a blueberry
organic
pie.
compounds.
Now Will's getting into it too.
Like blueberry, that's a joke. I have to make something up because it just smells like plastic. I have.
Does it smell like mine doesn't smell like anything. You got the sniffy
I got the good one, yeah.
Oh man!
All right, so now the ear cups. Like a tobacco.
I bet it smells like your hair stuff.
Yeah, like a yeah. Oh, actually, that's a good point.
Patchouli and patchouli and incense.
Okay, no, it
Adam's
smells like headphones. They smell good though. They smell good. But yeah, you're right. It probably is a lot of my hair stuff.
I really like the cloth feel on these is really nice. Compared to like the cups.
If you had a standard rating system, cloth feel.
I
like
number
it.
one, baby.
All right, now let's move on to a serious topic. We got to get serious here.
It's 2025, Adam. It's always serious.
2025 is the year of Linux. It's been confirmed up and down the stack. I don't even need to ask you because I know you know the answer already. But man, people are serious about Linux. I don't know if you know this.
It sure seems that way.
Yeah, and so lately we've been talking about other operating systems.
I've been running other operating systems.
I know, but to the wider PCWorld people, listen, I'm mainly a Windows user.
Yeah.
Though I do use Linux like here on this Chromebook
Loves a Mac
and on this Steam Deck. I loved Macs back in the day. Anyway, hey, Windows 10 end of life, Windows 11. Some people don't want it. Some people can't. And so, Linux, I think Linux is needs to be considered, and so we've talked about doing some more Linux-based content around here, but we're not expert. I wouldn't call myself an expert. I'm just a noob trying to dip my toes in here, but I tell you what.
I'm okay at server stuff. Thanks for including me, though.
Yeah. But I tell you what.
I heard you mention CachyOS. I mean, that's good.
People have a lot of opinions, and especially for noobs like me. It is really hard in some ways to wade through the Linux opinions because there's a lot of them. So I'm going to ask you for some opinions. And the first one is distros, because I remember, 2013, when we hadn't seen you for a couple years. Gordon did a video with you about which version of Linux to try, and you convinced him on one, which was Pop OS. And then he was like, you know what, I'm going to try it. I'm going to do it. And then he unfortunately never ended up doing it. But right. I'm actually going to do it. In his stead, I will actually do it. Do you still recommend Pop OS as a newbie's first Linux?
Pop OS is still a pretty good choice for beginners. What has grown out of that since a decade is the System 76 people are working on a new desktop environment called Cosmic. And I think that's going to answer the mail on what a lot of people are looking for out of their Linux distros that are converts, either coming from Mac OS or coming from Windows. And so that is an option, and it's still a good gaming choice. It's still a good distro. It is a little conservative in the sense that if you have newer hardware or bleeding edge hardware, you may be wanting updates to get the latest and greatest. At the same time, over the last 10 years, AMD has really embraced their Open Driver for their graphics cards. And so you really want to be on like a newer, almost bleeding edge Linux kernel and a newer bleeding edge version of Mesa, which is sometimes a little difficult to get in the Pop OS platform, and newer versions of like the firmware and all the stuff that goes with that, so that you get sort of this triumvirate of stable platform. Believe it or not, Arch and Arch-derived distros have sort of taken the crown there, and it is in no small part thanks to Valve. For a lot of the work that Valve is doing, SteamOS has Arch is a common ancestor, and so CachyOS has sort of popped up in the time since then, and is filling things in nicely for gamers. And so, like, you can use CachyOS and have the Arch experience without some of the Arch baggage, and generally, it's quite good.
Wendell, I think you should explain what you mean by bleeding edge hardware, because I think normal people think bleeding edge means one thing, and in the Linux world, bleeding edge means something a little bit different.
Yeah.
Like Zen 5
good point.
Bleeding edge for Linux right now still?
Zen 5 is bleeding edge for Pop OS, but not most other distros. Okay. It really depends on your kernel version. You can drop to a terminal and figure out your kernel version, but you lose some people when you say drop to a terminal.
Yeah.
Also, how are you dropping in the terminal? I don't understand.
Well, it's because you're going underneath the GUI.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, so it's like going under a house, like a crawl space under a house.
It's like booting to DOS before you go to Windows 95.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
there we
exactly.
go. You drop to the. Okay.
But I mean, so I installed Cachy a few weeks ago and have had kind of a remarkable amount of success and ease with that. And I'm running on a Zen 5 machine with a 5 Series NVIDIA card. And it kind of just worked. Like my webcam works. Most of my business is just out of the box fine. And I was really pleasantly surprised by that. But also, I do have a fair amount of Linux CLI experience from doing server stuff. So I knew, to make sure I had they shipped the right kernel, but I was able to check it and confirm that I had the right kernel for the hardware that I was running. And it feels really insanely fast compared to Windows. Like their animation times for things like window draws and all that stuff are so much faster just because they don't have the kind of 10 frame transitions or whatever it is that Windows does on everything these days, that it just feels like the thing's moving faster than I can think, which is not the way Windows has felt in a long time.
So you're doing serious work over there.
Doing hard work, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. And again, I've done some videos on Strix Halo based devices, and like the Z13 experience, even for gaming. I've got Steam pulled up here, and this is actually CachyOS right now. But I've done Arch and CachyOS and Bazzite and even Ubuntu 25.04, which is a little less bleeding edge, which is good. The experience with Linux on this particular piece of hardware has been better than Windows, especially when we take into account sleep and wake. Like when I close the keyboard, it's going to go to sleep in like 30 more seconds. And if I open the keyboard, it's going to wake up and it's going to let me type stuff and do things and be fine. And that's not always a guarantee on the Windows side of things for whatever reason.
Well, I want to back up a little bit more because I mean, you guys know Linux, right? Like you're an expert. I'm gonna call
Wendell's an
Wendell
expert.
Here
I'm a dilettante.
Linux expert. Why can't there be just one? Why can't there be one main one that everyone uses, and then some other ones that if you want to get specialized?
No one in Linux land is about that kind of authoritarianism.
But it makes it really hard, because then you gotta commit to one.
If you want one person to tell you what to do, go buy a Mac, Tim Apple lover.
Exactly. Well, but did we go too far down that road? Like, I get it. Like, the Apple one is like, it's our way or the highway. It's literally one road. But Linux is over here, like, with like a grid, some sort of like crazy street-based design. Like, when I lived in Pittsburgh, man, those streets were wild. Like some were one way this way, literally leading into a one way this way.
You get into a loop where you just can't get out. Right?
Yeah. So like, why make it so complicated?
Go
ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's Linux is the epitome of you got to do your research, right? Like when I booted up the Cache installer and it presented me with 18 different window manager options. And just for people who don't know, window manager is the thing that draws the desktop on your display. It's what makes Windows and like the taskbar and all, the things that we're used to seeing as part what you think of as your OS. This is that you can choose any of them.
Okay,
they're all there,
which is a good thing.
Yeah, I just went with the default. It was fine.
But there is at least a default.
No, not really. It's just the top one was the default, I assumed. Because like the Linux people maybe not great at UX sometimes.
I'm rocking KDE for now.
Yeah, I was KDE Plasma is what I did. Yeah.
Historically, I really like GNOME, but KDE is fine. It's there is an interesting there's a side conversation about that in that of the hardcore Linux users, there is a growing movement to use like Hyperland and the whole windowing desktop environment around that, and that is more like programmatic window management. Instead of like this situation where you have a bunch of messy overlapping windows, it forces you to think about, do you really need 72 things on screen at once? And how do you manage switching between like your different work contexts with different windows that are open at any given time? And once you sort of understand what Hyperland is trying to do for you or what the Hyperland environment is trying to do for you with the way that it wants to do window management and the tools that it gives you for like rearranging how things are sliced up on your desktop, something clicks in your brain and it's like, oh, this actually might be a better way to manage the flow of a lot of information across one or multiple screens.
Could I just use SteamOS or Bazite? If I'm also going to do work, not just game?
Not yet.
Why?
Steam is getting there. Like Valve is planning support for non-Steam Deck type devices. And so you can have the Steam Deck experience, but also something else. And I think they're targeting more like other handhelds. So it's like, yeah, we'll support other handhelds that are not Windows because, the experience. Someday that might be a thing, but you can have that experience now, I think, with Bazite or Cache OS or some Arch-derived thing or any one of those bleeding edge distros. If you use Cache OS, I would be surprised if you have problems if you have a reasonably normal hardware configuration.
So I was going to say, yeah, using Cache and playing games, the same stuff that works on the Steam Deck works fine, even with the NVIDIA drivers versus the AMD open ones. The only difference is the stuff that uses DRM or anti-cheat that's incompatible still doesn't work.
Oh, yeah, because it needs kernel level access, right?
Well, or just the developers, like, Helldivers is a great example because they initially launched with a version of the anti-cheat that doesn't support Linux. People complained because they wanted to play Helldivers on their Steam Deck, and they literally just updated, contacted their third-party vendor, got the Linux version, and started shipping that with Linux for Linux users. So still has anti-cheat on Linux. It's not like Ring Zero kernel level anti-cheat like on Windows, which is fine. Just to be clear,
actually, that's going away.
Oh, really?
Microsoft, Microsoft is crushing that with an iron fist because of the CrowdStrike thing.
Yeah, and rightly so. It seems like. They're the only big vendor that still allows Ring Zero on anything. It's good. That's going to be a dark time for things like fan control and all the light hubs and all that stuff, though, when that hits.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah. Anyway,
move to the browser.
Helldiver is actually a great experience because that one has been a better experience on Linux by a lot for the better part of like 2 months, 3 months since the whole anti-cheat debacle, and that is a poster child of like how it should be correctly handled. Meanwhile, like Fortnite, I did a couple videos where I'm playing Fortnite in a virtual machine under Linux, and it's fine, but I've taken a lot of steps to make it really hard to tell that I'm running a virtual machine. And there's a lot of comments that are like, "How are you doing that and not getting banned?" And it's like, well, if I told you, then I and you would be banned.
Yeah.
And it's just like this is the level of idiocy that we have to deal with sometimes.
Well, it's the that whole thing is the Fortnite thing is very clearly a religious war between Tim Epic and Gabe Valve about residuals on PC and how much the stores deserve to make, and whether Fortnite is going to come to Linux is a direct relationship to how successful the Steam Deck is, and has very little to do with the technical reasons that Fortnite is not available on Linux.
Yes. Well said.
So I want to go back to hardware, because I am usually somebody who does use a lot of bleeding edge hardware, because we have a lot of bleeding edge hardware around here, and I like to try things out. Like what it sounds like, I mean, maybe this is an assumption, it sounds like AMD hardware is usually the better option, not only on CPU but GPU.
Most of the time, yes. NVIDIA has been playing the game better. NVIDIA's new drivers have an option when they first install that is, hey, I would like to use the proprietary driver. Hey, I would like to use the open driver. And you pretty much have to use the open driver when you are on the bleeding edge now. And distros like Ubuntu have had a GUI for a long time. When you set up Linux, it's like, hey, do you want me to go get the proprietary driver and like try to figure that out for you? And historically, that's been okay, but that has been less okay. Like I've found the command line installer from NVIDIA to be more reliable than Ubuntu's GUI on 24.04 LTS and 25 personally, but I know that there are people that are using the like Ubuntu's like GUI installer to go get the NVIDIA driver. But generally, the AMD driver has been a better experience. And for the both the 9070 and the 9060, for the first time in AMD's history, it has basically had day zero support, and my guide for like, here's how you get your brand new graphics card you just bought at Micro Center working was only like a page or less. It almost worked completely out of the box.
Wow. Okay. I mean, that helps iron it out at least a little bit and swallow the I don't know. Well, I mean, the other thing is that a lot of people have I've seen people say, hey, you should only install apps through the dropping into the terminal, or updating through the terminal. I know we talked about a little bit about this, but
there is a kind of religious war that's going on.
Please tell me.
So you have snaps and flat packs, and just raw install the thing, and generally this is. So if you have a snap or a flat pack, you're installing an app in sort of a self-contained environment, and it guarantees that your environment is more repeatable. And I'll give you a great example is the remote desktop application that I think is one of the most popular. It's either the most popular or one of the most popular is Remina, I think is how you pronounce it. So on Arch and most distros, the flat pack version of that is generally better than the version that you install from the command line. And that's because the environment is self-contained and it's repeatable. And the reason for that in the case of Remina is because in order for remote desktop to work correctly, you need a lot of codecs and a lot of support to do the decode. It's like out of the box, it has some very basic support for things like, VNC protocols and that sort of thing. But it doesn't really support all of the fast, good remote desktop protocols, because you can do like remote FX, you can do like H.265 on the fly, you can do H.264 on the fly. If you have ever had a good remote desktop experience side by side with a bad one, like why is remote desktop being weird and sluggish versus it feels like I'm just on the local machine? It's usually the difference between hardware and software acceleration. Remina has better libraries in the Flatpak version than the version that you would just install from Arch with like Pacman or something like that. And so that's why some people say you should always install the Flatpak version. In the case of Steam is available as a Flatpak, and so it can be self-contained and all this other kind of stuff. But generally on a distro like Arch, I like installing Steam as a native package, not as a Flatpak. And the reason for that is because you have more close access to bare metal hardware, and it gives you like full system access and all this kind of stuff. Flatpak, there's also a sandboxing aspect of it, and so there's some gotchas with the Flatpak version of Steam. Generally, things are okay, but I just personally don't like having to deal with like the side effects of like the flat pack version of Steam for certain games.
So I don't think I didn't actually understand that. I'm relatively new to Arch, and I've been running a Steam Deck for a long time, but I've intentionally kind of stayed away from the desktop side of the Steam Deck. Does that mean, is there an RPM or PKG type equivalent on Arch? Is that what Snap is?
No, yeah. Snap is it's a self-contained. Arch also has like packages that you get with Pac-Man,
Yeah.
and then they have the user land thing, the AUR stuff, and so those are all different vectors of getting software. And the end result is different.
What do you feel about stuff like FlatHub? Do you feel like FlatHub is safe to use, or you feel like it's a little scary?
No. Generally, it's fine. Generally,
Okay.
it's pretty well maintained. But the flat hub and the flat pack is that sort of like self-contained. Like there is a sandboxing aspect of it, and not everything is running the way that it would if it were a native package that you install with, say, like Pac-Man.
But for like Notion or Slack or some like
that's
application
fine.
like that, it's totally fine. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because that was going to be my next question. Like, hey, listen, what if I never wanted to open up? What if I never wanted to drop into the terminal?
You can still do all that without having to go to the terminal. It's fine. The terminal, once you learn the terminal, it's the repeatability and the awesomeness of like, do this exact thing. And it's, if you know exactly what you want, you can just boop, and it's done. Versus
now you're telling me, hey, the version of Steam that I download and install could be worse than if I would have done it through the terminal. Like that, now that's just in the back of my mind for everything I
you can
install.
use the Pac-Man. There's a graphical client for Pac-Man you can use. So you just have to know, the difference is you have to know that instead of having, it's like, you know how you can get Discord from the Windows Store, or you can get it from Winget,
I'd never
or
get
you can get it
anything
from
from the Windows
Chocolatey, or you can download it from the Discord website.
I always go to the website and download it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, sometimes, like if I have to install a bunch of stuff real fast, sometimes I just type all of them piped into each other in Winget, right? So it's like Winget install this, comma this, comma this, comma this, comma this.
Okay.
And then it installs all of them back to back to back. What if you could do that for every application on your system?
But we're talking about like the difference of the source that it's getting.
Look, what I'm saying, Adam, is you need to start using VI. Okay, that's where this ends. You J and K page through things. Yeah. Just talk to Brad Shoemaker. He loves VI.
Oh God.
there are little things, like there are like in the GUI Pac-Man manager. I don't know if it's a built-in or a plug-in, but there are quality of life things. It's like, give me the list of stuff that I've manually installed, and then you can save that in a text file and then apply that to a new system, which makes life pretty easy. So it's like, give me everything that I've ever manually installed, and it's like, here you go, and then you can apply that to a new system really easily.
So we talked a little bit about hardware. You actually did connect me with the System 76 people. They are going to send me a laptop. Like how much do you put? Because I mean, I'm sure there's other companies, but the ones I know of off the top of my head are System 76 and Framework. I know Framework has a lot of support around Linux. How much stock do you put in those companies that have their own hardware?
System 76 and Framework both do their homework in terms of hardware support and integration and bug fixing. Because there are weird little edge cases that you run into with Sleep and Wake and Suspended RAM and like Hibernate. Hibernate working on Linux, again, the Flow Z13, Strix Halo, it works fantastic. Framework and System 76 generally put in the work necessary to make sure that those things work correctly, because it's not always a Linux thing. Sometimes it's a system ACPI thing, it's a BIOS thing, and so they try to close the loop on those kinds of things. And so that's what you get when you're buying System 76 or Framework for the Linux support for those kinds of things.
But so you would put stock in like a normie kind of getting those.
Yeah.
What are there other companies I'm not thinking of that do similar work?
There are certainly on the server side of things. I'd have to sit and think about what they are off the top of my head, but System 76 and is definitely the first one that pops into my mind for native Linux support.
Why aren't there more? I guess that's my next question.
Well, it is still a bit of a niche. I mean, Linux is, think about, like, set the desktop computer aside for a second and think about the last 20 years. Linux has completely taken over the universe everywhere.
Yeah,
Except
that's
for
what I've
desktop.
heard.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Servers, networking infrastructure, everything server related, networking, service hosting, game server stuff. Host is like here we have Windows games that have Linux as the server backend rather than Windows.
Almost all of them, for what it's worth. Like if you want to do cheap servers, you're doing a Linux combination of metal and cloud servers usually.
Yeah. So Linux has not taken over the desktop, and yet, here we are. When Zen 5 launched, game performance on Linux was better on Windows, and it's not because like Linux has a lot of overhead. There have been a couple changes to the Linux kernel since then to make creating a Windows facility for games that were originally designed for Windows have less translation overhead than they did when Zen 5 launched, and Zen 5 still beat Windows for gaming, which is insane. It tells you how much bloat has been added to Windows, and no one is paying attention.
Yeah.
Well, we keep talking about AMD. What about Intel CPUs? Is it just not a good situation? Stay away, or what?
No, generally it's fine. Intel has leaned into the whole heterogeneous cores thing, and it has not gotten as much love in Linux land as it probably should have, because you have the giant P cores that have certain capabilities, and you have E cores that have other capabilities. And depending on what you're running, it can't necessarily migrate from a P core to an E core if the job that it's running is going to need an instruction or something that doesn't exist on a P core. And so for the people in our audience that have been running like the mixed P and E core stuff for like a home lab or Proxmox or whatever, there have been little weird problems with that heterogeneous configuration. Whereas with AMD, even when you have like a Zen 5 plus a Zen 5C, it's the same core. It's just arranged differently in silicon. They are 100% software compatible with each other. And so it's less of an issue in that scenario, and often at a better price point. And so AMD sort of wins in that market. But for gaming desktops and everything else, no, Intel's fine. Actually, the Core Ultra 7 is on sale right now for like $220. That is a steal.
What? One of the things I've noticed consistently is challenging across the last 20 years of using Linux off and on is things like their sporadic hardware support issues that are kind of impossible to predict other than just setting up the OS and seeing what works and what doesn't. So things like webcams and capture cards and all those screwy peripherals that you have. Actually, USB headphones is a classic example. A lot of them use some sort of special software to configure that just won't run on Linux. So is there a database? Is there some site that has, here's the list of things that we know work and what kernel version you need to get this basic level? Or is that a level of centralization that's just impossible to expect from
Level 1 forums?
Yeah, okay.
Hey, there we go. Level
buried
1
in forums. Okay,
Love
perfect.
it. But at least they're your forums. So I trust
you give me an idea. Perhaps I should mine that and put that on the website. That's a good idea. I should definitely do that.
Yeah, like
that would be nice. Yeah.
I used to work on wiki sites, and that is a perfect use case for a user created and updated wiki. If you want help with that, I can help you build community stuff that'll get people excited about contributing when they buy a new piece of hardware.
That actually is a good idea. We should totally do that. The other, I thought you were going somewhere else with that, which is, how or why is the situation better today than it has been in the past? And there's two reasons. One is that a lot of this stuff is made in Asia, and Linux has completely exploded there. It's more or less already the year to Linux desktop, in China and everywhere else.
Yeah.
But also the consolidation of hardware. It's like the chipset that's in that USB audio device and the chipset that's in that USB webcam is from one of like 4 companies, and enough of their customers are interested in Linux support that there is Linux support somewhere. And so getting it working on Linux is usually just a matter of somebody being passionate enough to go and figure out the Chinese language version of the driver and stuff it into something and like build a Linux wrapper around it, or something along that line.
It also helps that Intel's not out making host-based Wi-Fi controllers and goofy stuff like that anymore that use the CPU instead of having dedicated hardware on the device.
It's funny that you say that, because the HP G1A laptop, AMD has gone down this route. They're getting so creative about power management. They're using Serial Peripheral Interface, SPI, using a high-speed serial link for the webcam. And HP plumbed in support in the kernel. Like, all the stuff is there for that. But that's one of the landmines that I tripped over, because I wanted to use a more bleeding edge kernel that HP was shipping with the HP G1A. And so I looked at that and I was like, okay, I can get this working in a new kernel. But the kernel has reworked the way that they deal with high-speed peripheral serial interfaces to save power. It's less, like an order of magnitude less compute cycles in the Linux kernel now for dealing with those interfaces, and that driver has never been updated to support that. And so it was like, oh, this is a little bit more of an uphill battle than I had planned for, getting the webcam to work with the new version of the kernel. And so in that microcosm, it's a really interesting example of exactly the problem you're talking about.
Clara in chat says that Linux HW database, if you know the vendor ID, is pretty good for finding out what supports what. So,
oh yeah, I mean, we would recreate that functionality, but there's a lot more functionality we would layer on top of that. That is useful as like a baseline. Like, do we even know what this is?
Yeah. It would be nice to be able to search by the product name before you buy it and have access to the product vendor ID, right?
There are also problems like Logitech has pulled a fast one on. It's like, this is the same model. The box looks identical, but inside the box is two completely different pieces of hardware.
You mean like they've shipped 20 different C920s over the last 10 years?
Yeah. Like, this one works. The other 19 don't.
Yeah.
So I haven't gotten this vibe from anybody specifically. But
here it comes.
But I have a feeling, and I want to ask you, do Linux people want idiots like me? Like coming over for Windows?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you sure?
Yeah, 100%.
Because all I'm going to do is complain.
No. Okay, look, the problem is you're not allowed to complain. You have to just look it up.
Well,
do your own research, Adam.
Yeah. What do you think, Wendell? Do you want to embrace idiots like me? Because there's people in the chat arguing about like how dumb a casual user is. I'm a casual user, and I'm very dumb. So
I like the computer so this is something that has always, since I've been doing this, and since the Linux, like, we have a channel dedicated to Linux, and I near constantly have to have this sort of conversation with the audience. It's like, girls, you're both pretty. Like, calm down, it's fine. And I don't really know of another way to describe that, but it's not even like a gatekeeping thing. When you put that much work into your operating environment and it unlocks, it's like, this is a level of productivity I've never known. Like, I tinkered with some text files and I gained some new knowledge and I've added a skill. I have a sense of accomplishment and I want to share that with the world. And if you don't see it exactly the same way that I do, then you're a terrible person. And it's like, okay, I was right up with you to the very last part where it's like, no, it's like, this is, you're describing the human experience. This is what some people feel when they go outside and they go on a nature walk and they see a butterfly, but you've experienced it. It's terminal, congratulations. That's amazing. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, embrace that feeling. Let's channel that into like the Bob Ross,
Happy Little Trees,
Fred Rogers, like, this is great for the world, and help other people feel that. And there are some people that are like, no, I don't want anybody else to feel this amazing happy feeling that I'm feeling with this level of, and we got to stop. Like, there's no sense in that. There's no need for that.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing, and you briefly touched upon it, I think the other thing that I worry about is that I don't need anything that complicated, I guess.
Yeah.
Like I'm not doing, crazy stuff that needs virtual machines and, like I'm pretty simplistic in what I do.
I'm going to tell you, having come back to this for the first time in a really long time, like I spent a long time using Debian, like in 2005, 2004, and as my main work OS, and it was great. It was after the first 3 months of getting nothing done while I was trying to learn how to use the OS, I got super productive and it felt good. The big difference now coming from Windows 11, where you're constantly being hit with the upsell. Hey man, do you have OneDrive? Oh, I see you're already subscribed to Office, but consider subscribing to Office because we didn't not prompt you for that, even though you're already paying for it.
Have you seen Game Pass?
What about Game Pass, man? You like games. Game Pass is a great deal. Hey, are you using Windows Backup, Adam? Or have you considered using Windows Backup? We're going to put that in the file manager. You have to figure out how to turn that off. What about Copilot in Notepad? You know what? I want to log into Notepad.
Copilot's in everything now.
Look, you want Copilot in Paint? We got Paint Copilot. If you wanted to have some, you can draw a stick figure and then turn it into a terrible AI drawing. Like, it's everywhere. When you boot into an OS that doesn't try to sell you 15 things the first time, it feels like you're traveling back in time to when computers were good.
Oh.
Okay,
I
miss
could get behind that
I miss paying for the OS. Like, this is what I'm telling you. If Microsoft would sell me a $200 version or $400, I would pay as much as I pay for a motherboard to get a version of Windows that doesn't hassle me.
And also performs well.
And also performs well. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that I would unpack what you're saying, like very well put, but I would unpack it a little bit further in that the operating system has stopped thinking about helping both normie and power users use the computer better.
Yeah.
It has strictly become about how can we monetize your interaction with the computer. And you need to look no further than the start menu. If you set up Windows 11 and you bypass the whole like let's create a Microsoft account and it's not plugged in and it's legitimately not plugged into the internet, when you click the start menu, it is literally broken from a fresh install.
Yeah.
There are missing icons.
Yeah.
And it's because they assumed that it's going to be connected to the internet. When you click on the start menu, it is designed to make someone's Bing stats dashboard go up so they can go to the shareholders and be like, look how successful Bing is. Bing is an amazing product because every time somebody clicks on the start menu, somebody's dashboard is getting a couple little,
somebody's
tinkles.
binging. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a real easy one to turn off, Wendell, by the way.
I know now I do that on all my installs.
It's the first thing I do.
It's not real. Someone just made that up. So, yeah.
So do you, because I'm dipping my toes in. YouTube has started recommending Linux things to me.
Oh no!
It's in my algorithm. It's coming for me. I love watching you, and this is no slag on you, but you're way over my head in a lot of ways talking about Linux things. Do you know of people who are doing good work in this space that you would recommend for somebody like me?
Jay LaCroix, Learn Linux TV.
Learn Linux TV. All right.
He's a book author and has written, like the Ubuntu guide and that sort of thing. And he has embraced content creation in a way that I wish that I had time to do. And he has got a lot of content, and it's good.
Do you find, like, are there applications that you find are just Adobe is notorious for not working particularly well under Linux? Just in general, is there anything else that kind of jumps out at you as potential? Like, getting less Adobe in my life sounds kind of positive. So, the
DaVinci Resolve has evolved to be a pretty good Linux experience. Interestingly, the bad and good DaVinci Resolve experience sort of resolves to like native application versus like Flatpak, FlatHub. I haven't played with it lately, but I think the Flatpak Snap versions of DaVinci are better because they bundle the exact correct versions of libraries and things like that are known to work, like the encoder, decoder support. Whereas when you use it natively, it's like, that's weird, the audio's getting out of sync, or that's weird, I'm having some corruption, or that's weird, there's some performance thing. And it's because not necessarily all of the libraries are synced to the version.
It's almost like you need a wiki.
So Wendell, you need a database on the site that also tells you which ones you should go for the Flatpak, which ones you should go for Pac-Man, which ones should be the Snap version.
Right. Yeah, well, actually, you know what? I used for the first time, because I've been using this Chromebook, which is Linux. I've been told
it's the most Linux.
Yeah. I used for the first time Photoshop on the web through a web browser.
Wow.
Yeah.
But,
and you know what? It actually wasn't that bad. It was different. And there was definitely some things that I was scratching my head of, like, wait, I know how to do this normally. How do I do this here?
It's really weird using those iPad and web versions of Photoshop. For me, the one that I keep coming back to that I can't get off of is Audition. Just their audio, like there's not. I realize Reaper's out there and there's some other things in that space, but for me, the other ones all are either way too much or not enough.
Like Pro Tools.
Yeah, I don't need Pro Tools.
Pro Tools doesn't have Linux.
Pro Tools doesn't support Linux.
Doesn't seem like it does.
Audacity is getting better, but is still not what I want in an audio editor, and doesn't. And honestly, it's the automation of the processing stuff for audio feeds is the big deal that nobody does or does way too much. So
the missing piece here is not what you think, but when I pointed out, it's going to be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And that is, I think it's wasted cycles to try to make perfect Windows compatibility on Linux for all of these applications. Adobe and Microsoft are going to fight you tooth and nail for that.
Yeah,
it's far easier to do that under a virtual machine. But the reason that the virtual machine performance isn't where it should be is to do with GPU virtualization, not CPU virtualization. CPU virtualization is basically non-existent overhead. You could run as many simultaneous operating systems as you want, and there is hardware, there's silicon, there's transistors in there because these are all inherited from servers where virtual machines is the name of the game. That I can run a Windows virtual machine under Linux. I can give it X number of cores, and I have virtually no performance loss for those cores that I give it. So if I've got a 16-core laptop and I give Windows 8 cores, I am having exactly the same compute experience as I would have bare metal on 8-core. It's within a percent or two. The problem is GPU para-virtualization. And finally, there's stuff in Blackwell generation GPUs. It's not enabled on the consumer side, but it is enabled on the RTX Pro 6000 mostly. There's some bugs I found that I've escalated to NVIDIA, but they're like, no, this should work correctly. And there are some amazing things happening with Vulkan and Vulkan backends to let you slice up a GPU like you slice up a CPU now.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, and with that, you're going to be able to run Photoshop under Linux, zero problems. And whenever that happens, overnight, it's going to be a sea change.
Yeah.
It's like I can run anything under Linux. It doesn't matter anymore because it's Windows under Linux, and I can turn Windows on and off at will, and it's fine.
Ooh, okay, yeah.
Have you experimented with running a hypervisor on the desktop, Wendell?
Yes.
It's a bad idea still, or is it getting better?
If you are fine running multiple GPUs, you can have exactly that experience today.
Okay. So I just need to put two 5090s in my machine.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Basically, yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay, really?
New project.
Really? If I just use 2 GPUs and then that solves the problem?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Piece of cake.
That actually might be nice, yeah. Well, because it doesn't have to be high. It doesn't need to be high power.
No, you put
especially
put
for Photoshop
Arc or something.
Yeah.
A lot of the people on our forum use AMD iGPU for their Linux host, and then the gaming GPU for the Windows. That's perfectly fine.
Oh.
And then like switching between the hypervisors is like a keyboard shortcut, basically.
No, you don't even have to do that. There's a project called Looking Glass, which is amazing, and it is PCIe device frame copy, and so you run something at 60 or 100 FPS on your native GPU, and it goes over the PCIe bus directly into the GPU on the iGPU. So you can game at 60, 100, 120 FPS, whatever, but there's nothing plugged into the GPU. There's a virtual monitor driver. We even have a signed driver for from Microsoft, so that you can install a virtual GPU. It's actually part of the Red Hat like para virtual IO thing, because they use this in OpenShift in server contexts. And so with Looking Glass, you can pass through your Windows experience at hundreds of FPS, 100-ish FPS plus, with relatively low overhead into Linux, and that's fine. Now, remote desktop with GPU acceleration also works fine. So as long as you're doing anything but not playing a game, it feels like you're on bare metal native Windows, because remote desktop is such a good, fast protocol.
I have a 240 hertz monitor, Wendell. I can't do 100 hertz. It's not.
Yeah.
It sounds bad, man. Back off the hypervisor. The boots are fast.
If you do 2 discrete GPUs, you could probably get 200 hertz like that from one physical GPU to another physical GPU over PCIe Gen 5.
Yeah,
240 hertz is probably fine. I've got 120 hertz OLED, and that's what I'm coming to you now from. Yeah. And it's fine.
You're looking great.
Okay.
All right, a couple rapid fire questions. Actually, you know what? Let's move over to the viewer Q&A. If you got a question right now, get them in the chat. We will go through some rapid fire Linux questions and fold in some other questions. If you're watching or listening to this later, sorry, Linux, you won't get your chance to ask Wendell another question until he comes back on again. But you can always hit the link in the description. There's a link to our Discord, and there's a channel in the Discord where you can drop in a question at any time, and hopefully we'll read it here on the show. So let's get some rapid fire Linux questions. We got Greg Regorovich. Linux doesn't do HDR yet, though, right? Or does it?
There is some limited support for HDR, but it is not fantastic. I think also incremental scaling is problematic, and FreeSync is problematic. Those are still the things where there's stuff coming, but it's not. It's not there yet.
Valve's dumped some stuff in about HDR, because the OLED Steam Deck supports HDR, and it has, I'm going to say, the weirdest support I've ever seen when you plug that thing into an HDR monitor, in that I don't understand when it is and is not working. It's hard to know why it works sometimes and why it doesn't work other times.
Huh.
But this is like we've talked about this before. When people say Linux stuff is beta, it means a different thing than you expect when somebody says Windows software is beta, right? Like Linux beta is a whole layer or 3 deeper than Windows beta is. So something to keep in mind.
Okay. Friend of the show, Gentlestone, asks thoughts on Cinnamon as a desktop manager.
I haven't tried it in a long time. I know that there are a lot of Cinnamon fans on the forum, so it's probably pretty good. But I haven't personally tried it in quite a while.
Speaking of Cinnamon, have you tried the new Selena Gomez Oreos?
I have not.
I saw those at Target this weekend, and I
can't believe you didn't buy them.
I know. I don't know. I was just like, we have a thing for trying new Oreos, I guess.
I want to know what Selena Gomez Oreos taste like.
Well, cinnamon, I guess, specifically. So, yeah. Interesting. Okay.
I went to the store and looked for them, and they didn't have them at my Target.
Yeah, well, I have a special Target, I guess.
Thanks.
Friend of the show, Cause MC asks, Wendell, TrueNAS scale Fangtooth native forbidden router vid?
Those are just words.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. Is that a question? Do you understand?
Well, the forbidden router might be something that you're interested in. It's basically running your router as a virtual machine.
Oh, God, no.
There's a guide on the forum for ripping that certificate out of your AT&T router and stuffing it into the thing.
I'm back
okay, now he's in.
So I read
you could.
Yeah, you had the first guide that I read on that years and years ago on your forums. Thought leaders on breaking the AT&T terms of service over there at Level1Techs.
It works surprisingly well, and if you run it as a VM, you can also do high availability. So if you've got like too many PCs and like one of your routers, like the other one can just pick up where it left off, and AT&T doesn't know anything bad has happened.
I'm really I want my router to be a standalone box because if I'm not there and something breaks and I need to restart the router, I want my wife to be able to go out and be able to tell her which box she should reboot. B,
you reboot them all.
I am very reticent about my ability to manage a Linux machine safely enough that it should be exposed to the raw internet if it's not managed through like OpenSense or pfSense or something where other smarter people are doing the kind of groundwork on that.
So it still is that way because you do that through a VLAN.
Nope.
You create a VLAN that's isolated, and then pfSense is like, there you go.
Nope, that's a bad idea.
And don't tell this to Brad either, Brad Shoemaker.
Don't suggest this.
All right, we got some more here from friend of the show, Jay Brinks 18. I have a rookie NAS question. What is the purpose of Proxmox, Plex, ZFS, all these other things when you can just make shared network drives in Windows and use Parsec?
I mean, using shared drives in Windows with Parsec is perfectly fine if you want to do that. What I like to do with, like, ZFS is about data integrity, and ZFS has saved my butt on things that have been like 10 or 15 years old because it's like, there's a little bit of bit rot in this image, and it's like, oh, that's weird. Where did it changed slightly, and if that had just been on a file share, you might not notice that a 10-year-old file got corrupted at some point along the way, and now you can't actually look at a 10-year-old family photo. Not that there's not other things that do that, but that's totally fine. Jellyfin and Plex and those kinds of things run all the time, and so you just drag a media file to your network drive, to a network share, but it can go and look at it and say, okay, I recognize this. This is episode 37 of season 2 of Knight Rider, and I'm going to go and get the thumbnail for this and make it easy to get at it in a web GUI. And Plex will also do transcoding, so if you're on a crappy iPhone and it's got a terrible internet connection, it's like, okay, here's the 360p version of that it's just creating on the fly, so it's not sending you the whole 1 gigabyte file or whatever. So there's a lot of things like that you can do. You can decloud yourself. You can have an iCloud-like experience with an open source piece of software called Nextcloud. And if you combine that with another open source thing called Tailscale, then it's not on the internet. You have your own little private internet where all of your devices are safe from the scary public internet with lots of bad security things. And if you're lax about doing security updates and things like that, it doesn't matter because none of that stuff is on the internet. But you have an iCloud experience that is arguably more secure than iCloud because you can't even get to it unless you have these really big cryptographic tokens that you've installed on your devices, which is what Tailscale does for you.
But what if the security threat is inside the firewall?
That's a problem.
Yeah, then you're boned. Friend of the show, Liquid R asks, does HDMI 2.1 still have stuff that AMD can't do on Linux?
This is entirely the fault of the HDMI consortium. The binaries exist and the plumbing exists, but if you have native HDMI on Linux, they're not comfortable with the HDMI parts being loaded as a binary blob, so HDMI outputs on your card don't work if they're native HDMI. Some cards, like the Intel Arc, have a hardware chip that does DisplayPort to HDMI conversion. That's fine on Linux, because from Linux's point of view, it's DisplayPort. But if you want to run HDMI 2.1 on Linux, you need a DisplayPort to HDMI 2.1 adapter, only because the HDMI consortium is it is a purely political reason, and it is dumb. And we as consumers should rise up and demand an end to the idiocy.
Okay,
that's really goofy.
Eric Bloxham asks a noob level Linux distro choice to recommend: Mint, Ubuntu, Arch, Bazzite, Cache, live environment for testing before installing. We talked a little bit about this earlier, but
I'd probably in the reference tier is probably like Cache OS. Arch might make sense if you're following one of the guides on the Level 1 forum. Like if you get the HPG1A and you want to do snapshots, suspend, resume, hibernate, and like all of the stuff on the HPG1A Strix Halo laptop, our guide for Arch will work great. That applies to Cache as well, because that stuff doesn't work on Cache out of the box. But if you do that on HPG1A, you'll get all that functionality, and it's great. It is literally the best Linux laptop experience that I have ever had in my entire life, which is insane by like a mile. And then like Ubuntu is fine as it's fine. Pop OS also fine. Bazzite is a little ahead in terms of gaming and other features. That's a Fedora-based distro, but it's Fedora Rawhide. But it's a good gaming experience. They're doing a lot of work. Nobara actually sort of came up. It's also Fedora-based. Historically, I've always really liked the Fedora distros. Red Hat got a little weird there last year. It's a whole other story with how they're doing things, and so things are a little different in Fedora land. But Bazzite has continued to keep on keeping on, and so Bazzite has been good stewards of the good normie Linux experience, in my opinion, while also being a little bleeding edge. So
what about the live environment for testing before installing that? I'm assuming that's talking about just booting off a thumb drive.
Yeah, that's fine. That's totally safe. Cache OS will let you do that. I don't think the Arch installer does that. There might be some live versions of Arch that you could boot and try.
I was gonna say this is where I plug Ventoy as like the easiest way to try bootable to boot into different live installs and see what works. You run Ventoy on a USB thumb drive or an external SSD if you want it to be real fast, and plug it into a nice fast USB port, and then you basically get a partition that you just dump ISO files into that are bootable ISOs, and the Ventoy installer will say, hey, do you want to boot off of this ISO? And you can do Windows, you can do any flavor of Linux you want, you can do whatever weird business you want to get into, and you can try it all out.
Ventoy's a lot of fun.
You have to turn off secure boot sometimes with Ventoy, though. Just FYI. In your BIOS or in your UFI.
Here's a really good question from Avoid Mind. How should Linux users go about recommending things to noobs? Is the choice of distribution more important than the choice of desktop environment? That is a good one, too.
It really depends on what the noob is trying to do. Like, you have to talk to them. It's like, what are you trying to do?
You have to understand the heart of the noob. Is that what you're saying, Wendell?
Yeah. Dive deep, open up the eyeballs, and gaze into the noob.
Yeah, I was helping a noob with Linux the other day, and they were like, I really just want the Outlook experience. And I was like, okay. And we did Outlook on the web, but then from the browser, I was like, install this as an app. and it created a tray icon. And because there'd been all this like teeth gnashing, and I was like, "What do you mean I can't just run Outlook?" And we installed the web page as an app, and then there was an icon there, and they were like, "Oh, this is exactly what I wanted."
Which is what Chromebook does, right?
Yeah.
So
It's funny that used to be a thing you could do in Firefox too, and they pulled that at some point, and I miss that feature. Like that's a nice feature for stuff like your web-based productivity tools like Slack and Notion and all that kind of stuff, rather than using Electron wrappers or whatever. But anyway,
here's a real nerdy one from Ninja Scout 2, the sequel. The first one was okay. The sequel, much better.
Very good.
Any experience with putting a VM's passed through DGPU output to a different TTY on Linux? Similar to how your desktop environment is on TTY2 and especially have PTY on TTY 3 to 5. I have no idea what
you could do that with Looking Glass. You could create a terminal, an extra copy of X or Wayland or whatever running on like PTY 6 or 7, and just wire it up to always be the Looking Glass client. And so when you go over there, then that's your virtual machine, and it's actually Looking Glass doing the plumbing. I don't think it would take a lot of work to set that up. ChatGPT could probably help you set that up.
Oh man, I did. Oh, didn't we do this last time? That I asked Copilot which version of Linux I should install.
It was.
I don't remember the answer, and I'm not on my Windows laptop
Just
right now.
hit the Copilot button. You'll be good
Oh
to go.
yeah, the big G, right?
Yes, Copilot.
Oh no, it's got Gemini.
Yeah, that thing's lousy with AI.
Yeah. Let me ask Gemini. I don't think I asked Gemini last time. Oh, it's a standalone app. All right. So here we
hello,
go.
Adam
What should I ask Gemini? How do I phrase the distro question?
I want to. Oh wait, what question do you want to ask it?
Yeah,
what
like what distro it should recommend me as a noob.
Well, I mean, just that. It's like as a newbie to Linux, which distro is the most noob friendly, and then we will judge its answer.
Should I spell noob?
No, spell it the wrong way. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Noob.
Linux noob. Which version or which distro?
Yeah, which distro should I use?
All right, here we go.
Using the word distro there as a tell, it's going to be like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about.
Oh, the first thing. Welcome to the world of Linux. It's a great journey, and thankfully, there are many beginner-friendly distributions, often called distros.
This is the thing
that
I
make
hate.
it easy to
Look,
get you started.
It's buttering you up already. This is obsequious computer UI.
All right. So I need you, Wendell, to rate the answer here. Here are the top recommendations for Linux noobs, and it spelled it the right way, along with why they're good choices. Linux Mint. It's great for beginners. Linux Mint is consistently recommended as the most user-friendly distro, especially for those coming from Windows.
Historically, that has been true.
Okay, all right. Number 2, Ubuntu. Why it's great for beginners. Ubuntu is arguably the most well-known Linux distro and has a huge user base, meaning plenty of support.
I mean, the nice thing about Ubuntu is that if you want to get native versions of Slack or Discord or whatever, those exist in the world and you can pull them down really easily. So, I can get behind that.
Yeah, and Ubuntu is getting clued into the fact that there are some rough edges with that whole bleeding edge thing, and so there's this idea of like Linux OEM kernels, and if you browse through the available kernels officially from Canonical, there are these Linux-OEM versions of the kernel. And in some cases, like HP has given Canonical money to be like, okay, this is the kernel that you need to run when you've got the HP G1A laptop.
Oh,
but
that's nice.
In reality, some of that is also like, we're only going to support this in a much more recent version of the kernel. And so if you know that you need that, you can go get it. And then all of a sudden your Linux experience is way better.
Number 3, Zorn OS. Why it's great for beginners. Zorn OS is specifically designed to help Windows and Mac OS users transition to Linux smoothly.
So it berates them. It's just like, hey, stupid, use the package manager.
You don't Gemini bad on that one.
No, I don't know that one's bad. I haven't seen that one. I've seen that one pop up a few times on the forum. I have not experienced that one personally. I haven't run into a situation where it's like, oh, I should go try this. But like Elementary OS and Nix OS pop up a lot more than those. Oh, Nix OS. We should also mention like there's this idea that is becoming popular of an immutable distro. And so like Nix
I've heard
OS,
somebody talk
for
about
example.
We talk about that a lot.
This is real. So like the problem that Flatpaks and snaps solve, I think is solved better with the NixOS approach. So with the NixOS approach, where it's like, oh my God, I need this version of DaVinci, or I'm going to have bad library problem. Not a problem on NixOS, because when you get the version, the state of the entire rest of your system is a known. It's an operating system level finite state machine, basically, for those kinds of things. In the way that Snap and Flatpaks are toward having things in a finite state. And so when you change something and you install something or whatever, it literally just rebuilds everything. If you mess something up, there's a catalog of like all the stuff you could have possibly messed up, and it's you sort of roll it back. You have your home folder and you can do whatever you want there, but the state of the system is managed. And philosophically, I really like that.
I mean, this is what Apple's been working toward with OS 10 for 6 major versions at this point, or something ridiculous, right? And it's how Fedora Blue and there's a bunch of immutable stuff. Hollow did that. I don't think Hollow's super active anymore, but I guess the Steam Deck does that too, right?
This was one of the promises of Bazite, and admittedly, this is what I'm about to describe is something I ran into more than a year ago. But this was one of the promises of Bazite, and then I did something like off script in Bazite, and it was like, oh no, you can't do this. And it's like, okay, but there is a way. Like, is there a path for me to do this thing that I need to do? And there was, but the end result was worse than it would have been if I had just done it the other way. And I haven't experienced that on NixOS. Like, once you get used to like NixOS, it seems like it's a little more bleeding edge. But Bazite is supposed to also have that kind of a feature, which makes it a little bit more noob-proof over time.
Okay, that sounds interesting. Yeah. Oh, I had a somebody's correcting me. Killer Beehive says it is Ubuntu. Ubuntu. Is that how?
I thought it was Ubuntu.
Ubuntu. Yeah. Well, now get in the comments. Let us know which way to describe it. That is the best part of this, is learning how to say Ubuntu.
Yeah, who gets to decide the pronunciation of these names?
Ubuntu is a word.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. It means
no, it's not a word.
Or friendship or
nobody knows that word.
Or something.
Nobody knows that word. Okay. I think we're going to wrap it up there. We got some other questions in here, but I don't want to abuse Wendell's time. And I appreciate you.
Good.
I appreciate you coming and stopping by the show, Wendell. Always.
No, this is fun. It's always fun to see you guys. Like, what are you guys up to? Like, what are you guys excited for in this as we go into, July?
I mean, I have, like, obviously it's kind of a sleepy time for hardware for the most part. A lot of things stewing in the back, but like, I really am excited to try Linux for the first time.
You sounded really, really trepidatious.
I'm scared.
Yeah.
I'm scared.
You have the fear.
But yeah, and I've already kind of dipped my feet in Chrome OS, because this is different enough from Windows that I'm like having to relearn a lot of things.
Yeah.
But it is also pretty easy for the for most part, because it's
important to maintain that mental plasticity.
I barely have. I think the problem is I have so many. I don't have a ton of neurons up there, so like when you try to pull them, it just gets real brittle real quick.
Orange cat vibes.
Yeah. So that's my problem.
Threadripper's coming out soon, I think.
I haven't touched Threadripper in a while.
The last time I touched Threadripper was a Falcon machine that Kelt sent.
Yeah. Why are you excited about it? What's new?
Because all the cores.
Zen 5,
you gotta have
right?
all the cores. Yeah.
Didn't that massively multi-threaded version of 7-zip just come out?
Oh yeah, I saw that news post. Yeah. So it has more. It can address more than 64 threads, I think, is what the new version of 7-zip.
Yeah, new world records coming.
See, the crazy thing about that, though, is that like the whole 64 thread thing, that's a Windows thing. Windows is this still crazy messed up situation that's been this way since like Windows NT, and it's like it just can't comprehend compute units that are more than 64 threads. And it has led to an ungodly amount of bugs and things. Like there was a bug in Microsoft SQL Server that I tried to file like 2 years before Microsoft actually acknowledged it as an issue, and their fix was to make it shut down. Like when you start SQL Server, it's like, you're in the situation where you've got more than 64 threads. You're going to have to choose which bad thing I do, and then it shuts down. And that was their fix.
Look, sometimes a clean crash is the best possible outcome. It's just telling you to go do something else, Wendell.
Yeah, go do something else. The other thing I'm excited about is a video we're going to shoot hopefully this afternoon. Well, I guess with two things. Tomorrow, it's already the post is already live on PCWorld. friend of the show, Norman Chan from Tested. I don't know if you've heard of
Adam
Tested.
Savage is Tested.
Yeah, Adam
I've
Savage
heard of
is
that.
Tested.
It seems like
I don't know if you've heard of it.
It seems okay.
It's a YouTube channel. You should go check it out.
Yeah.
We're doing a live build.
Mm-hmm.
We've been talking to him for the past couple months. He's been very patient as we put together the parts list and stuff like that. And he wants specifically stuff to do video production, whatever. We kind of do that too. But VR and AR,
virtual reality,
virtual and augmented reality. So he has very specific needs that we've painstakingly gone through. So that live build tomorrow,
Vision Pro in, so you can hook it up to this thing right after the build's done, right?
Yeah. And whatever that new Beyond, what is that? The real small Beyond,
glasses? Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway, so
big screen Beyond.
Yes, thank you. Go tune in to PC World for that live stream. It's going to be a fun time, and it'll be good to have Will and Norm back together again,
doing the old bit.
Back in the saddle.
I'll bring the shake weight.
Yeah, bring all the fun jokes. Also, we're about to shoot a video. Were you going to say something?
I was, but go ahead.
Okay, no, go ahead because I have to grab it.
Oh, I was going to say, Wendell, I've been digging into microstutter stuff. I've come up with new ways to test and visualize microstutter for videos, which has been really fun, and we're getting ready to shoot some more stuff on that.
It's good.
I kind of want to do microstutter Linux testing because I feel like everything running through that Vulkan interpreter is making the microstutter, like when I play games on cache that feel stuttery on Windows, they often don't feel stuttery on Linux, and I can't tell if it's psychosomatic or if it's a real thing. So I want to do some testing.
Yes, and also note if your cache kernel has the patch on Windows for there's a timer patch thing that creates a primitive in the Linux kernel that's a 1-to-1 map or a primitive that exists in Linux, and that also has an effect on microstutter, I've noticed.
Oh, well, I'm running the Zen 4 and up kernel. I just chose the default one I think on that, but I'm gonna have to dig into your forums and see what's up. Yeah,
it might be a part of the default kernel. It might not. I'm not sure, but there's like a timer primitive. And it makes a difference. It's shocking, especially at higher frame rates where you can do 100 FPS, and it's what's going on here? It's this feels better.
Well, I was. It's funny because when I was working on one of the last games I worked on, our engineer was doing Steam Deck stuff, and he loaded up the Vulkan to DX or DX to Vulkan interpreter for the DX11 branch of the game, and was shocked at the difference in frame time variance on that versus the Windows version. It was the AMD Open Driver. Valve had done some stuff with the Vulkan to DX or DX to Vulkan pipeline on for the Steam Deck that just made Linux run really well. And he was like, "Oh, this is nice. They're fixing Windows bugs in Linux now."
Linux. So the other video we're hopefully going to shoot either this afternoon after lunch or tomorrow morning is I have every version of the Lenovo Legion Go S.
Ooh.
So both Windows and both SteamOS versions, and I did some head-to-head testing.
A handful of handhelds.
There's a lot of handhelds. Yeah. How many handhelds do you need? You don't need this many handhelds.
A fistful of handhelds.
Yeah, it's a fistful of handhelds, but I have them.
For a few, the follow-up is a few handhelds more.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. I like that. One. But yeah, we gotta get out of here. Got to get some lunch. Make some more videos. Wendell, where can people find you on the internet?
Just Google Level1Techs or forum.level1techs, level the number 1 techs. It's fine.
Yeah.
They can hunt me down. I'm easy to find.
Yeah, hunt down Wendell. Just go knock on the door.
If you search for Cache OS
Strix Halo
Strix Halo, that comes up too. Yeah, that's the fastest way. Wherever there's a Strix Halo and wherever there's Linux, that's where Wendell will be found.
That's where Wendell will be found.
If Strix Halo is a preview of our portable computing future, I am here for it.
Nice. Yeah, me too. I love it. Yeah. So thanks everybody. Check back next week for your Fix It PC talk here on the Full Nerd. Also go over to PCWorld.com because we have a bunch of Prime Day stuff. Prime Day is 4 days now. It's Prime season.
Prime 4/7 of a week now.
Yeah, geez, wow. Yeah. So Prime Day, that's why we had to call in Wendell because Elena and Brad and the rest of the crew are doing serious work over there on the website covering all the hot deals. So
Make
many
your sacrifice to the Bezos late stage capitalism gods.
Yeah, right. So go get your Prime on, or if you need to buy toilet paper, at least go through our link first, and then we get the cut on the toilet paper.
Somebody used my link the other day and then bought a bunch of adult novelties, like a large number of them. And I was like, thanks, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, they're trying to help you out, man.
Yeah, I
They're
appreciate
trying to
it.
help you out. Yeah.
Support your favorite favorite media sites.
Also support getting some new headphones. You should really. I know a lot of nerds out there want to spend as much money as they can on their GPU or their monitor or something. But guess what? Good audio really makes a difference.
Treat
as well.
yourself.
So yeah. So thank you to Fractal and the Scape headphones for sponsoring this episode. And I'm going to go around the room here. Wendell, thank you so much for being on.
It's been fun.
Always good to see you. Always good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It's been great.
Will, always good to see you.
It's fantastic to be here when Wendell's here.
Yeah.
Wendell just brightens up the whole room.
Yeah, only when Wendell's here.
I mean, it's nice the rest of the time, too, I guess.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. You thank all of you fine folks out there for being awesome, and thank you specifically to Will Sly for controlling verticals and horizontals. Get us out of here.
Alrighty. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in with us, and happy shopping. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bump, 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 bump.